This is the Troll Patrol, live with Justin FREAKIN.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol, live. It's a freaking Sunday, and Warlord is ready for the story that is, you guessed it, at the ass end of the show. Sky Comet, RB, good evening, my friends. Well, you know how this show goes. We start with the big news of the day, and the big news of the day is not people stuffing fucking fish with weights. Apparently I haven't even checked into this fucking poker cheating thing, but I'm just like, after the chess anal beads, I'm not impressed by your stuffing fish with lead fucking cheating. Do better, motherfuckers. Gonna have to do it again. I'm gonna have to figure out. Resonate? Or 3 and 8? Arthritis and my stupid stoner ass. Oh, I haven't seen the video yet, Warlord. I'm looking forward to it. Oh. I'm not even really high. I'm totally not high enough for this shit. Resonate, good evening. I am so happy to see you again. You get a little higher. That's what's going on. What are we talking about tonight on the show? We got good shit. We're gonna watch some wrestling. We're gonna watch some wrestling tonight. Wrestling legend Antonio Inoki passed away. I think it was Friday night. I think I found out as I got off of the Freak Show on Friday night. Was when I heard the news. The reason why Antonio Inoki is going to be featured here on a news show is, one, I'm a wrestling fan and I want to talk about it. But Inoki is a very historical figure. He was a member of Japanese parliament, helped free hostages in Iraq, put on a goodwill peace ambassador fucking festival in Pyongyang, North Korea, and that's what we're going to watch a wrestling match from. We're going to watch Ric Flair and Antonio Inoki. We're going to watch about 5 minutes of it just so WWE doesn't get on to me. We're going to watch like the end of the match. Kind of check out the atmosphere in Pyongyang in 1995. We're also going to go over, I'm not going to be able to say his name. I meant to pop up a fucking ESPN video and learn how to say his name. Tua Tagovailoa? Is that close? Tua Tagovailoa? I should know this because I lived in Alabama for years, and I believe he was the quarterback for Alabama. He got a concussion last week while playing in the NFL, and then on Thursday they let him play again, and some bad shit happened. So we're going to talk about that story. Let me show you your meme of the day here. Wrong. That's not cool. That's not. I'm like, no, I'll never show your phone numbers on the. And that's it. Like, that's none of my personal information. It's other people that have called in. It's personal information. Nope, not that one either. That one. That's the right one. Because people are like, oh, I've got your phone number now, and like, you think that's my actual phone number? You think the phone number I use for this show is my actual cell phone number? You think you call that number at some other time? Apparently, Warlord is getting sleepy over here. I had to jump on the bandwagon. See, I'm in all these OC meme groups, and everybody else is making Lizzo memes. Like, one of them was like, Lizzo took a dookie on Mount Rushmore. Buddy, if you're going to say that, then what you don't know is that I've been feeling bad. Well, you probably do know I've been feeling bad over the last few days, but I'm still not quite recovered, and I really wanted to take a nap instead of doing this. Curiouser will tell you, just like 10 minutes ago, I was talking about there are people that would be upset if I'm not on tonight, and I owe it to them. I want to make sure I deliver, and then Warlord's like, oh, you're putting me to sleep. All right, good night, everybody. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I am Justin Freakin. Find out who won the Brazilian election on your own, motherfuckers. That's me kicking the ball. That's me kicking authority in the balls.
He's kicking authority in the balls.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to use that one way too much. Scott says, what the fuck? Were you not here for the interview where Dr. Oz said that because of the way John Fetterman dresses, he's kicking authority in the balls? That's where that comes from.
He's kicking authority in the balls.
Oh my God, making that last night, I laughed my ass off. Now, I used purple truck nuts because I was afraid if I used skin-colored truck nuts, I might violate TOS. Let's talk debates. Let's talk debates, all right? So, as I said, putting together the Uber list of debates that we are going to watch. So let me go over, and I've got them in order now, so I don't have to struggle with this. These are the debates, and I've added to the list since the last time I went over it. This week, we have three debates this week. The first one is on Thursday. On Thursday, we get Republican Senate challenger Blake Masters taking on Mark Kelly, the Democratic incumbent in the Arizona Senate race. I think I called Mark John Kelly last week, and I apologize for that. I'm so sorry. On October 7th, that is Friday, so it's going to be another night where we're going to be doing a Troll Patrol Freak Show back-to-back. On Friday, first, we get two. We get Ron Johnson and Mandela Barnes. Ron Johnson, the Republican Senate incumbent. Mandela Barnes, the Democratic challenger. This is the Wisconsin Senate debate. And then after that, or before that, I don't know which one comes first. I don't have time for the North Carolina Senate debate. We're probably going to watch the North Carolina Senate debate and then watch the Ron Johnson, Mandela Barnes Senate debate. But the North Carolina Senate debate is, I believe it's an open seat. It is Republican Ted Budd against the Democratic nominee Sherry Beasley. With three debates this week. And we start off next week with J.D. Vance and Tim Ryan in Ohio. We're going to get Kerry Lake and Hobbs, the Arizona governor's race. On October 13th, that is Friday the 13th, we're going to get Tudor Dixon against Gretchen Whitmer in the Michigan governor's debate. Also on Friday the 13th, we're going to get a second Ron Johnson Mandela Barnes debate. October 14th is the Raphael Warnock Herschel Walker debate, the Georgia Senate seat. I'm keeping an eye on the Evers-Michaels race for the Wisconsin governor seat. They have not decided on a date yet, but apparently they both agreed to debate. Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp having two debates. The first one on Monday, October 17th. J.D. Vance and Tim Ryan also on October 17th in the Ohio Senate race. Rubio, Marco Rubio, who is apparently going to vote against FEMA aid for Ian-stricken Florida. We'll have a lot to answer to in the debate against Democratic challenger Val Demings on October 18th. Bennett O'Dea, the Colorado Senate race on October 19th. Kristen DeSantis, Cortez Masto, and Adam Laxalt on October 20th. Oz Fetterman on October 25th. Now, there are a couple other debates that they've ostensibly agreed to, but haven't set a date yet. That's Mastriano and Shapiro in the Pennsylvania governor's race, and Bulldog and Hassan in the New Hampshire Senate race. So if we get debates, if they come to an agreement, we will do those two races. Also, apparently, Rand Paul has declined to debate Charles Booker in Kentucky. I would have carried that one. And John Kennedy has said that he's open to debating Gary Chambers, but has not agreed to a debate yet. And I will let you know should that happen, because that is also a debate I would like to watch. Big month for debates. Ray, good evening. Ray, I haven't even checked that story yet. I would expect that it's going to be a couple weeks and we'll probably see some body camera footage. I will get you an update on that sometime this week. Cause you know I love fucking with cops. Some people might say I'm kicking authority in the balls.
He's kicking authority in the balls.
Sorry, that's my new tour. I'm gonna play with that one for a while. Yeah, I got ice cream over here. What you gonna do about it? You're gonna. I mean, I'll back, like, you know, I played with Sexual Anarchy for a while there. You know, I get tired of it. I went on a kick with the Just Another Day and mass shooting U.S. motherfucker. You fucking would, wouldn't you? You piece of fucking shit. All right. The clock has started, and I will do my best to... Yes, Walker agreed to one debate. And thank goodness he did. That is one of the ones that I want to watch. Must see TV, if you will. Now, I do want to point out that I wanted to carry the Oregon governor's debate, which is an interesting race. But I think that debate happened on Friday. So when I looked it up on Saturday to see if I could put it down on the list, it had already happened. And of course, if you joined us on Friday, we did Beto O'Rourke and Governor Greg Abbott. That was a fantastic success. I picked up all kinds of new YouTube subscribers from it. Who all said they were glad that I didn't talk over the entire debate. Anyway, I didn't run down everything we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to do the Antonio Inoki thing. I'm going to make another comment about Lizzo, because there's been something bothering me this past week about the whole Lizzo thing. She said on stage she was the first person to play it. Next day, I saw evidence that she was not the first person to play it. Then I heard the Library of Congress, was it Library of Congress, that where it came from? Yeah, Library of Congress. They said she's the first person to play it. So there is confusion about this. She is apparently not the first person to play it, but she wasn't lying when she said that, because she was told by the Library of Congress that she was the first person to play it. I'm going to tell you about a sanctuary in the Midwest for puppies. that's going to send you to dinner and buy you a hotel room and give you a puppy to cuddle with in that hotel room, if you so choose. That is a service they offer. If you are near the Kansas City area, I'm going to tell you how completely free of charge you can take a puppy out to dinner and to a hotel, all expenses paid. This is for the puppy, by the way. They're doing this for the puppy. They want people to come and take the puppy. So I'm going to tell you how, if you want a night out with a puppy to cuddle with, totally gonna be yours. Of course, the fishing cheating scandal. We're also going to make Kamala Korean cheesesteaks. You guys know how much I am into cooking shows. So I have found a nifty little recipe by this right-wing group where they're making Kamala Korean cheesesteaks. Why is that? Because apparently the vice president has signed a secret agreement with North Korea, or is possibly defecting. We don't know. We're gonna get the deets from her mouth here in just a little bit. When we tell you about an appalling story out of Alabama, where prisoners have gone on a work stoppage strike and are now being starved by the prison system. This is illegal, by the way. Louis Gohmert is going to go off on the FBI. Matt Gaetz, who I don't understand how he's still in Congress, is going to brag to us about how he got out of trouble. Rick Scott was asked about Donald Trump's racist Truth social media post about his former transportation secretary. He was racist against his former transportation secretary. The Oath Keepers are going to be arguing in court that they could not have committed sedition because the president can order an attack on Congress. I shit you not. We're going to preview the new SCOTUS term, which starts tomorrow. We're going to talk about Katie Halper, who I like Katie. I've kind of drifted away from her reporting in the last few years, but it looks like what happened to her at the Hill was pretty shitty. And it was because she was interviewing a politician that you guys know I fucking love, Rashida Tlaib. So we're going to talk about how Katie Halper got fired from the Hill. Plus, CPAC has deleted a tweet that seemed incredibly pro-Putin. All this and more tonight on the Troll Patrol Live. That's another thing. Apparently Rob Knowers fans, apparently he doesn't shut up about me. He has talked about me nonstop since the debate happened, which, also I've kind of been provoking it because I've been on his Facebook fucking mocking people. I go into his chat, I'm not even listening to what he says, but I'll just go in, right-wingers and morons, boom, back out. So apparently that sets them off, and then they talk about me for an hour. So one of the things that he brought up was Igor Dushenko during the debate. And he brought up Igor Dushenko was investigated for being a Russian spy. And, I looked that claim up real quick during the debate. Okay, fair enough. Okay. I didn't know that. You knew that. Fair enough. And I didn't know what to do with that information at the time. But then you go back, you read exactly what it was. He was working for the Brookings Institute at the time, 2008 or 2009, I think it was. And it was some offhanded remark he made. It was like some fucking joke. God damn it. I was so close. I was so close. It was like some offhanded joke he made about selling secrets, and they rightfully investigate him for that. But the thing, like, so Rob used this to say that, no, actually, it was Hillary Clinton which was colluding with Putin. But what he left out is the Dushenko guy was no friend of Putin. And that's why he wasn't in Russia. I would assume if he was to go back to Russia, he would be killed. Because he was highly critical of Putin. He wrote his dissertation, or no, maybe he wrote a report on how Putin's dissertation was full of plagiarism or something. So this idea that that was somehow proof that Hillary was the one colluding with Russia was nonsense. And that was like every claim Rob made. And then him saying that the FBI didn't attempt to verify the dossier. Not true. The Inspector General's report says they made multiple attempts to verify the dossier. So, whatever. His friend keeps saying that I got wrecked. I don't think you can say I got wrecked. You can say that I did not combat his tactics. Well, that's true. You can say I didn't look good and let him steamroll me. That one 100% is true. But he certainly did not defeat me by making better arguments or being right about anything. Maybe I'm just coping. Maybe I'm just coping.
Come on, man.
Hands of Warlord. Hands of Warlord. All right, so the news you guys have all been waiting for. It appears that no one is going to win in the election tonight. That Bolsonaro and Lula da Silva will both move in to a runoff, which will happen later this month. Right-wing president had polled poorly for the last year and risked losing in the first round, but hours after voting closed, it appeared the contest was likely heading to a runoff. Once imprisoned, a former leftist president is poised to lead Brazil again. Since Brazil's high-stakes presidential race began last year, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, and I probably butchered his name, Brazil's former leftist president. I need Michael Brooks saying his name. That's what I need to do. Just go get a clip of Michael Brooks and let him say it every time. Many analysts had even predicted he would take the presidency in the first round on Sunday, ousting President Jair Bolsonaro after just one term. But hours after polls closed, the two candidates were neck and neck, with more than 79% of votes counted. Ugh. From those results, it appeared nearly certain that the race was heading to a runoff on October 30th. Datafolha, one of Brazil's biggest pollsters, projected late Sunday there was no chance that Mr. Da Silva would be elected on Sunday. The early results were a major victory for Mr. Bolsonaro, who had said for weeks that polls were severely underestimating his support. So far, the results had suggested he was right. The contest has been widely regarded as the most important vote in decades for Latin America's largest nation. That is in part because of the starkly different visions the two men set forth for this country of 217 million people, and because Brazil faces a host of challenges in the years ahead, including environmental threats, rising hunger, and a sputtering economy, along with deeply polarized population. What country on earth isn't facing that right now? The election had also been widely watched in Brazil and abroad because it had posed a major test for one of the world's largest democracies. For months, Mr. Bolsonaro has criticized the nation's electronic voting machines as rife with fraud, despite virtually no evidence, and suggested that the only way he loses is if the election was stolen. Where have we heard that one before? ZXC. Welcome, my friend. I'm so glad to see you tonight. Funny, you should bring up the Russians. That might have been the next story I had on the list over here. Russia is retreating. Forces left destruction and documents in their wake. We're in Lyman, Ukraine. In front of the mayor's office in Lyman lay a heap of Russian propaganda posters, apparently freshly torn down and partially burned in a fire that went out in a thin fall drizzle on Sunday. Decorated in the white, blue, and red colors of the Russian flag, they were soggy from the rain. One explained the significance of Russian state symbols, the Russian flag, and national anthem. The national anthem of Russia is loved in our country. A partially burned poster read. Day after Ukrainian forces retook control of Lyman, a strategic railway hub in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk region, a picture began to emerge of the destruction left behind by fleeing Russian soldiers who had occupied the city for months. In a hasty withdrawal, they abandoned official documents, military vehicles, and the bodies of their comrades. After weeks of fierce fighting, Russian forces retreated from Lyman on Saturday, just one day after President Vladimir V. Putin illegally declared the surrounding region to be part of Russia, citing what Ukraine and its Western allies have called sham referendums in territories partly under Russian control. The intense battle for the city was evident on Sunday afternoon. Whole city blocks were panoramic scenes of collapsed brick and corrugated tin roofing. A local bakery, Segal, was reduced to a heap of rubble. Its bread trucks were still parked in a lot, waiting for morning distributions that wouldn't come. Well, ZXC was joking, right? Like, that was funny. Like, it's like Warlord saying cancel Justin. He doesn't actually mean it, right? Right? Shut up. You. Now.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
Apparently, Russia left behind torture sites after retreating. Torture sites. 10 torture sites in one town. Russia sowed pain and fear in Izium. First time the Russian soldiers caught him, they tossed him bound and blindfolded into a trench. Maybe I need to hit the content warning. They tossed him bound and blindfolded into a trench covered with wooden boards for days on end. And they beat him over and over, legs, arms, hammered to the knees, all accompanied by furious diatribes against Ukraine. Before they let him go, they took away his passport and Ukrainian military ID. All he had to prove his existence, and made sure he knew exactly how worthless his life was. No one needs you, the commander taunted. We can shoot you anytime, bury you a half-meter underground, and that's it. Brutal encounter at the end of March was just the start. Andriy Kotsar would be captured and tortured twice more by Russian forces in Izium. And I don't know that I'm saying that correctly, and the pain would be even worse. Russian torture in Izium was arbitrary, widespread, and absolutely routine for both civilians and soldiers throughout the city, an Associated Press investigation has found. While torture was also evident in Bucha, devastated Kiev, devastated the Kiev suburb, was only occupied for a month. Izium served as a hub for Russian soldiers for nearly 7 months, during which they established torture sites everywhere. I mean, surely ZXC is joking. That has to be sarcasm. That has to be sarcasm.
As a conservative, it's getting harder and harder to not look like a kook.
Truth. Because CPAC showed us exactly what that's like today. They had to delete a tweet after being accused of pro-Putin language. The Conservative Political Action Conference has deleted and backtracked on a Friday tweet. I'm sorry, it was Friday, not today. That adopted pro-Russia rhetoric amid the Kremlin's annexation of Ukrainian territories. We must oppose Putin, but American taxpayers should not be shouldering the vast majority of the cost. CPAC's Twitter account posted Saturday after deleting the original tweet. The original tweet remained online due to a massive time zone difference, as CPAC is currently hosting a conference in Australia. Tweet said... The original tweet read, Vladimir Putin announces the annexation of 4 Ukrainian-occupied territories. Biden and the Dems continue to send Ukraine billions of taxpayer dollars. Meanwhile, we are under attack at our southern border. When will Democrats put hashtag America first and end the gift giving to Ukraine? Well, I certainly don't think the gift giving... There are gifts going out with our taxpayer money. That's going to the people that own defense contracting companies, shareholders, Boeing, assholes that own BlackRock and shit. They're the ones getting the gifts from the U.S. government. Let's make that perfectly clear. Reference to Ukrainian occupied territory seemingly suggested that the Russians, rather than the Ukrainians, had the rightful claim to the areas Russia annexed. The United States has condemned Russia's recent annexation attempts as illegal. Exactly what you would expect from CPAC, though. I mean, they invited Viktor Orban to speak. Let's hear from an American that was captured in Ukraine.
I couldn't believe it. I kept asking him, free?
Mm-hmm.
Free?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't comprehend
like the word made no sense.
It didn't. It didn't make any sense to me at all.
We had gone out to do a recon mission, and it didn't go the way that was planned. Andy and I did end up being captured. Everyone else managed to make it back to the base safe. When Andy and I were captured by Russian soldiers, we were held at their outpost, their camp, for about 24 hours. We were held overnight. We were taken into Russia for a week for intensive interrogation.
Come on, you owe me one.
3 months. I assume intense interrogation was something like we just read about.
Through all we went through and all the times that we thought we might die, we accepted that we might die, we were ready to die when it came. That ride was the only time that each of us independently prayed for death.
Wow. Prayed for death. That's heavy. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in Russia this week. It is a very crucial week in the conflict in Ukraine. We're going to move over to
The following
Israel?
monologue is something that I wrote, delivered, and recorded at the Hill.
We're going to move over to Israel tangentially. I guess what we're really covering is the fact that Katie Halper got fired from the Hill. But I wouldn't care that Katie Halper got fired from the Hill if it wasn't for the fact that she was speaking on something that I feel needs to be spoke on. She had a monologue or radar, whatever the fuck it's called, over there on the Hill. Oh, but I made it through the 10 minutes. Yay. It was about Israel being in an apartheid state, and I believe she talked to Rashida Tlaib in an interview, or she referenced Rashida Tlaib. She no longer has a job because of it, so let's hear what's going on.
It was then censored, and I was then canceled and fired. Representative Rashida Tlaib has been condemned by some over comments she made about Israel. Here's CNN's Jake Tapper reporting on what the Michigan Democrat said and the response it prompted.
Democratic Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib of Michigan facing criticism today from what several of her Jewish colleagues have deemed anti-Semitic comments. Here's what Tlaib, the first Palestinian-American woman to serve in Congress, said at a virtual event yesterday.
I want you all to know that among progressives, it has become clear that you cannot claim to hold progressive values, yet back Israel's apartheid government. And we will continue to push back and not accept this idea that you are progressive except for Palestine any longer.
The CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, slammed the comments, saying that Israel does not have an apartheid government, and said that she should not be imposing a, quote, litmus test in a tweet, saying, quote, Tlaib tells American Jews that they need to pass an anti-Zionist litmus test to participate in progressive space. Some of Tlaib's Jewish colleagues in Congress agreed. Florida Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz called her comments.
I love the work the ADL does. That really lets me down.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz is right. It is outrageous. It's outrageous that Rashida Tlaib is getting attacked. Tlaib is merely stating that Israel is an apartheid state and that people who claim to have progressive values cannot support an apartheid state. No matter how loose a definition of progressive we use, it certainly excludes supporting a racist apartheid system. What's outrageous is attacking Tlaib for pointing out that progressive except for Palestine is an intrinsically contradictory position. What's also outrageous is that the Anti-Defamation League's Jonathan Greenblatt would claim that Israel is not an apartheid government. What's outrageous is that Jake Tapper would accept Greenblatt's judgment as the truth and not propaganda that needed to be pushed back against. I understand that Greenblatt and perhaps Tapper feel like Israel is not an apartheid state, but unfortunately for them, apartheid isn't about your feelings. It's about facts. In 1973, the UN
facts don't care about your feelings.
Any inhuman acts committed for the purpose of establishing and maintaining domination by one racial group of persons over any other racial group of persons and systematically oppressing them. In 1998, the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court defined apartheid as inhumane acts of a character that are committed in the context of an institutionalized regime of systematic oppression and domination by one racial group over any other racial group or groups, and committed with the intention of maintaining that regime. These inhuman acts include, among others, infliction upon the members of a racial group or groups of serious bodily or mental harm by the infringement of their freedom or dignity, or by subjecting them to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment, by arbitrary arrest and illegal imprisonment of the members of a racial group or groups, any legislative measures and other measures calculated to prevent a racial group or groups from participation in the political, social, economic, and cultural life of the country, and the deliberate creation of conditions preventing the full development of such a group or groups. In particular, by denying to members of a racial group or groups basic human rights and freedoms, including the right to leave and to return to their country, the right to a nationality, the right to freedom of movement and residence, the right to freedom of opinion and expression, and the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association. I'd encourage Jake Tapper to look this up sometime. Here are just a few examples of Israel's apartheid policies. The Law of Return of 1950 allows any Jew, which means anyone with one Jewish grandparent, the right to return to Israel, the right to move to Israel and automatically become citizens of Israel. It gives their spouses that right too, even if they're not Jewish, though if they're Palestinian, that's another issue entirely. Palestinians, of course, lack that.
Jones, good evening.
The Israeli Citizenship Law of 1952 deprived Palestinian refugees and their descendants of legal status, the right to return. And
if anyone is just joining us, we are watching Katie Halper explain why she was fired from the Hill. And so far, man, she has won some points back with me, because it hasn't been about like, oh, poor me, I got fired. It is, this is what the issue I was trying to cover. Here, let me make this point very concisely to you. Thank you, ma'am. This has been fantastic. Of course, you can always tell me something.
In their homeland. It also defined Palestinians present in Israel as Israeli citizens without a nationality and group rights. These laws together obviously fit into the International Criminal Court's apartheid criteria. More recently, the nation-state law established that the fulfillment of the right of national self-determination in the state of Israel is unique to the Jewish people. It demoted Arabic from an official language to a language with special status. It also stipulated the state views Jewish settlement as...
You live in sexual anarchy?
Take you up on that. Never know. Never know. But here lately, we haven't been doing much loving. We've been in fighting mode. We're in kick authority in the balls mode around here.
He's kicking authority in the balls.
A new toy. I'm gonna have to play with it a lot. I'm sorry. Just like those truck nuts.
A national value and will labor to encourage and promote its establishment and development. These are just some of the reasons that human rights organizations have declared Israel an apartheid state. Al-Haq, Al-Mezin Center for Human Rights, Adala, the Legal Center for Arab Minority Rights in Israel, Adamir, Prisoner Support and Human Rights Association, Human Rights Watch, and Amnesty International have all documented Israeli apartheid policies. Israel's own human rights organization, B'Tselem, has declared, the Israeli regime enacts an apartheid regime. B'Tselem divides the way Israeli apartheid works into 4 areas. Land. Israel works to Judaize the entire area, treating land as a resource chiefly meant to benefit the Jewish population. Since 1948, Israel has taken over 90% of the land within the Green Line and built hundreds of communities for the Jewish population. Citizenship. Jews living anywhere in the world, their children and grandchildren and their spouses are entitled to Israeli citizenship. In contrast, Palestinians cannot immigrate to Israeli-controlled areas even if they, their parents, or their grandparents were born and lived there. Israel makes it difficult for Palestinians who live in one of the units.
And if I'm correct, if they marry into an Israeli family, they try to get the Israeli family to move. Like, they don't want the Palestinians integrated. Squid, Phoebe, good evening.
Controls to obtain status in another, and has enacted legislation that prohibits granting Palestinians who marry Israelis status within the Green Line. Freedom of movement. Israeli citizens enjoy freedom of movement in the entire area controlled by Israel and may enter and leave the country freely. Palestinian subjects, on the other hand, require a special Israeli-issued permit to travel between the units and sometimes inside them, and exit abroad also requires Israeli approval. Political participation. Palestinian citizens of Israel may vote and run for office.
And we also, she didn't go into this, but that is made a bigger issue by how the Jewish settlements have just popped up everywhere. So there are Palestinians who can't enter Israeli territory, that have to go around Israel in order to get to other places inside of Palestinian territory. It's insane.
But leading politicians consistently undermine the legitimacy of Palestinian political representatives. The roughly 5 million Palestinians who live in the occupied territories, including East Jerusalem, cannot participate in the political system that governs their lives and determines their future.
Israel, yeah, that was the first story we did, but it does look like that's not going to be enough to head to that's not going to be enough to win outright tonight, and they will indeed be heading to a runoff.
I was born in New York City. My great-grandparents and the family before them were from Eastern Europe. I could move to Israel today, buy a house, get a job, travel around with no problem. So could Jake Tapper and Jonathan Greenblatt. But a Palestinian like Rashida Tlaib can't even visit her family home in what is now Israel. This demographic tension is recognized by Israeli officials and politicians who have described their own country as an apartheid state.
It's only a year old? Wow.
In 2002, we established an apartheid regime in the occupied territories immediately following their capture. That oppressive regime exists to this day. Zahava Galon, former chair of Israel's Meretz Party, said, in 2006, Israel was relegated to the level of an apartheid state. In 2007, Israel's former education minister, Shulamit Aloni, wrote, the state of Israel practices its own quite violent form of apartheid with the native Palestinian population. In 2008, former Environment Minister Yossi Sarid said, what acts like apartheid, is run like apartheid, and harasses like apartheid is not a duck, it is apartheid.
It's apartheid.
In 2015, former Mossad chief Meir Dagan said, President Benjamin Netanyahu's policies are leading to either a binational state or an apartheid state. Even Israel's prime ministers have used the A word. In a recently published 1976 interview, assassinated Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin said, if we don't want to get to apartheid, I don't think it's possible to contain over the long term 1.5 million more Arabs inside a Jewish state. In 2007, yet another prime minister, Ehud Olmert, warned, if the day comes when the two-state solution collapses and we face a South African-style struggle for equal voting rights, then as soon as that happens, the state of Israel is finished. Prime Minister Ehud Barak, said in 2010, as long as in this territory west of the Jordan River, there is only one political entity called Israel, it is going to be either non-Jewish or non-democratic. If this bloc of millions of Palestinians cannot vote, that will be an apartheid state. But there is no other standard more universally respected in defining apartheid, not the UN, not the International Criminal Courts, not human rights organizations, not Israeli prime ministers, than the people of South Africa who lived under the system of apartheid. After all, apartheid is an Afrikaans word. It means apartness. It was the official policy in South Africa from 1948 to 1994, allowing white South Africans in the minority to rule over and discriminate against the vast majority of black South Africans. The definitions from the United Nations and the International Criminal Court come out of their experiences. In 1997, Nelson Mandela said, "The UN took a strong stand against apartheid, and over the years an international consensus was built, which helped to bring an end to this iniquitous system. But we know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians." In 2013, Desmond Tutu recalled being struck by the similarities between what he experienced in apartheid South Africa and what he observed in Israel.
I have visited the occupied Palestinian territories and have witnessed the humiliation of Palestinians at Israeli military checkpoints, the inhumanity that won't let ambulances reach the injured, farmers tend their land, or children attend school. This treatment is familiar to me and the many black South Africans who were corralled and harassed by the security forces of the apartheid government.
Listen to South Africa's Minister for International Relations, Naledi Pandor, addressing the United States General Assembly just last week.
While we work to address contemporary conflicts, we should not ignore long-standing conflicts, such as that of the people of Palestine, which has been on the United Nations agenda throughout the 7 decades of existence of this organization. We cannot ignore the words of the former Israeli negotiator at the Oslo talks, Daniel Levy, who addressed the UN Security Council recently and referred to the increasingly weighty body of scholarly, legal, and public opinion that has designated Israel to be perpetrating apartheid in the territories under its control.
To my fellow Jews, to my friends in the Democratic Party who want to support Israel and think of themselves as progressive, it is important to look at what Israeli law today does, what the lived experiences of Palestinians today means as defined under international law, and what our friends from South Africa have long pointed out. But we should not stop there. South Africans didn't just define apartheid, they dismantled it. Instead of attacking Rashida Tlaib for her candor, her critics should ask themselves how Israeli apartheid could be dismantled. What would a post-apartheid country look like? Lashana Tova.
Seriously, Katie Halper won major points with me for that. Like, the video that got her fired, and there was, like, no talk of any grievances she had on the Hill. It was simply, this is the point I made, and then fantastic fucking video. Great job, Katie Halper. I'm sorry that put you to sleep, Warlord. Do you want to go ahead and do the fish story? So a couple weeks ago, we reported on the scandal that rocked the chess world, where a chess champion was accused of having anal beads up his ass. A friend was in the bathroom in the audience somewhere and was like using AI to do the moves that were on the board, and then using a like a Morse code to communicate to the chess player. Now the pro fishing world has been roiled by a wild walleye bass cheating scandal. That was a lot to say. So serious controversy in pro fishing as multiple-time winners caught stuffing lead weights and other fish fillets in their fish to have the heaviest catch to win hundreds of thousands of prizes. Now, I got a friend who is going to be a co-host on the Friday Night Freak Show coming up here soon. He posted, he's a big fan of salmon, constantly talking about getting salmon. And he was like, fish stuffed with fish, where do I buy this? So this is the aftermath.
Where's the other one? That's fucking dumb, motherfucker. Call the fucking cops. Listen to me right now. Everybody listen to me right now. Jake, I want you to leave.
I don't understand how they didn't, like, there's not some inspection. They don't open the fish's mouth to make sure they didn't stuff. That seemed like that would be the easiest way to cheat. Why wouldn't you do that? What? That makes no sense.
I don't want anybody to touch these guys. I want you to go to jail.
I don't know about jail. I don't know about what criminal. I mean, maybe fraud.
Don't we need to file a police report? Yeah, I would. Jason, we gotta file a police report. Every fucking one.
Holy shit. Where's your crown now?
I mean, we all fucking do it. What the fuck, man? Fuck yeah, they've been doing this whole fucking time. Hey, you got him. A filleted fish. Look at this is a fillet, yeah. A fillet fish. It's a walleye fillet. He needs to go to jail. You have anything to say, Jerry? You call the cops. I got video. You got anything to say? Hey, you guys did refund all that fucking money.
Emotions are clearly running high. I've seen at least 4 weights. And like those aren't, that's not just like a gram weight. That's like a 10-gram weight. Like those are heavy.
Take pictures. I need pictures. You videoing this whole thing? Got video. Yeah. I video.
Oh, sassy. This was at a fishing tournament. Where was it? In Michigan? This multiple-time fishing champion was caught stuffing his fish with heavy lead weights and other fish fillets. He was stuffing fish fillets down in the fish. I guess to try to cover the weights up, too. I guess they checked.
Put it right off the grill. Just making sure. Hold on, let me take pictures.
No, they got like 6 or 7 weights in there.
They've been doing this shit for years. Cheating motherfuckers, man. Piece of fucking shit. You got a fucking boat. You got thousands of fucking dollars. You stole from it.
Well, they are clearly very, very upset by it. Okay, so that's the first cheating scandal tonight. Usually I do these fun stories at the end of the show, but Warlord really wanted to go ahead and do this one. So you're going to get the other cheating scandal. This one is in poker. You'll get that one at the end of the show, along with a recipe for Kamala Korean. What was it? Kamala Korean cheesesteaks. I cannot wait. Get a recipe for Kamala Korean cheesesteaks. We're going to clear up whether or not Lizzo was the first person to play James Madison's crystal flute. We're going to talk about concussions, and I'm going to fuck his name up. Tagovailoa, who apparently had no business being on the field. The Miami Dolphins have fired the independent neurologist who does the evaluation. So another scandal here in sports going on. This is the sports scandal episode of the Troll Patrol. Workers at Alabama prisons have gone on a work stoppage, which has caused the Alabama prison system to try to starve them. Matt Gaetz has said that he has gotten out of trouble and won't be going to prison, apparently. Plus, Rick Scott is going to tell us about Trump's racist post on Truth Social. And you won't believe the Oath Keepers' defense in their January 6th sedition trial. They say they can't commit sedition because the president has a right to order an attack on Congress. Seriously. Plus, we're going to watch the finish of the match from Pyongyang, North Korea, between Antonio Inoki and Ric Flair. Antonio Inoki passing away on Friday. I want to educate everyone on the history of Antonio Inoki, who was not only a towering figure in the wrestling community, but also the political community. All that and more on the other side of the break. Here on the Troll Patrol, live. Hi, I'm Justin FREAKIN. I'm a leftist broadcaster and comedian, not liberal, leftist. And despite what you may have heard from right-wing propaganda, George Soros isn't handing out Soros bucks and funding people like me. There are no Koch brothers, Mercers, or any number of right-wing think tanks funding content on the left side of the spectrum the way they fund people like Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, and Dennis Prager. And YouTube doesn't monetize videos that are controversial or deal with politics unless you're someone like Steven Crowder. So this is an ultimatum. Become a patron. Support my Patreon, where I'm going to become a right-winger and get some of that easy money. You know for a fact that I could be bigger than Charlie Kirk or Jesse Lee Peterson.
Amazing!
All I have to do is talk about how I used to be an SJW snowflake, but the left went too far with their cultural Marxism, and Republicans are stupid enough to buy it, even though this video exists. And you know I'm right, so give me your money or I'm selling you out.
We live in turbulent times. The media is full of deception, conspiracy theories, and fake news. Now, more than ever, it is important to ensure you're getting information from a source that's freaking reliable. I'm Justin Mullins, and this is the Freakin' News. Get a breaking or interesting story with a humorous twist in about a minute weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern on YouTube, BitChute, Odyssey, and more.
Got the Friday Night Freak Show coming up this Friday. Really gonna kick off spooky season. Special guest co-host August Aguilera. He is one of the owners and a director with Strange Films. They make spooky, scary, horror, psychological thriller kind of films. So the perfect guest to really kick off spooky season here on this Friday's Friday Night Freak Show. Of course, it's coming up after two debates we're going to be doing on Friday night. The first one will be Ted Budd, the Republican challenger, or the Republican nominee for Senate in North Carolina, going up against Sherry Beasley, the Democratic nominee for Senate in North Carolina. We're also going to be seeing the dumbest person in the Senate, Senator Ron Johnson, the Republican incumbent in Wisconsin, debate Mandela Barnes, who is way closer than he had any right to be, going up against Ron Johnson in the Wisconsin Senate race. Both of those debates should be wild. Bud is a hardcore Trumper, and Johnson, you guys know Ron Johnson. Here's your second meme. UFC to introduce items. It's always spooky season. Fair enough. But I mean, my housemate has had Halloween decorations up for like 2 months already. She been watching Halloween shit since like 4th of July. It's wild. And she's talking to me and I can't hear what she's saying. So I asked her when I should put up the Halloween graphics, knowing good goddamn well I'm going to do it when I always do it, which is like 2 weeks before Halloween. And she's like, now, put them up now. You should put them up last week, 2 weeks ago. Oh, I don't even know if I've got my graphics ready to go yet. I guess I'm assuming I would just be using last year's. What do I have prepared? Ooh. Oh yeah. Their wing graphics are nice. Look at that shit. Perhaps we need to do maybe I had some kind of filter over it or something to make everything darker. A little too light. You don't get Halloween graphics yet. I would do better if I already had the Halloween graphics. Is that what you said? And now I can't find my actual graphics now. Let's go back to Pride Month. We didn't get enough Pride Month this year. Oh goddamn! Hold on. I don't even see them. I have fucked everything up. There we go. The devil's lettuce, you say? High enough for this show. All right, back to the news. U.S. Supreme Court to decide cases with monumental impact on... Feel a little sick. Try that again.
Come on, man.
U.S. Supreme Court to decide cases with monumental impact on democracy. Many fear the potential for extreme right-wing rulings on topics ranging from affirmative action to voting rights. We are reading from The Guardian, by the way, so this is an impartial observer to American politics. On Monday, the 9 justices of the U.S. Supreme Court will take their seats at the start of a new judicial year, even as the shock waves of the panel's previous seismic term continue to reverberate across America. You can tell that this isn't a U.S. publication because this is like a 12th grade reading level as opposed to a 4th grade reading level. In there, I might even be generous saying 12th grade. It might be like a 10th grade reading level. It just seems so much smarter than, the way U.S. media is worded. In their first full term that ended in June, the court's new 6-3 hard-right supermajority astounded the nation by tearing up decades of settled law. They eviscerated the right to an abortion, loosened America's already lax gun laws, erected.
You live in sexual anarchy?
Erected roadblocks to combating climate change, or to combating the climate crisis, and awarded religious groups greater say in public life. Putting the new one on there has changed the order of all the other ones, so it's like taking me a second to find. The fallout of the spate of extreme right-wing rulings has shaken public confidence in the political neutrality of the court. A Gallup poll this week found that fewer than half of U.S. adults trust it, a drop of 20 points in just 2 years, and the lowest rating since Gallup began recording the trend in 1972. Justices have begun to respond to the pressure by sparring openly in public. The Wall Street Journal reported that in recent speeches, the liberal Justice Elena Kagan has accused her conservative peers of damaging the credibility of the court by embracing Republican causes. Samuel Alito, who wrote the decision overturning the right to an abortion in Roe v. Wade, counter-accused Kagan, whom he did not name, of crossing an important line by implying the court was becoming illegitimate. To add insult to injury, Ginny Thomas, the extreme conservative activist married to Justice Clarence Thomas, was questioned on Thursday by the House committee investigating Donald Trump's attempt to subvert the 2020 presidential election results, which she avidly encouraged. Apparently, they did indeed get some new information from Ginny Thomas during that testimony. And, by the way, reading some legal minds' interpretations of what's going on, they really believe that the January 6th is going to make a criminal referral. Both Schiff and Cheney have indicated they are on board with making a criminal referral for Donald Trump to the Justice Department. With so much discord in plain sight, you might have expected the new supermajority created under Trump to opt for a calmer year ahead. Not a chance. The choice of cases to be decided in the new term spells full steam ahead. I see no signs of them slowing down, said Tara Groves, a law professor at the University of Texas at Austin. The Supreme Court has chosen to take on cases this term that raise a lot of hot button issues, just after they decide a bunch of cases that raised a lot of hot button issues. From fundamental aspects of American democracy to LGBTQ equality and the electoral power of racial minorities to protecting the environment, the conservative justices have selected a whole new slew of targets that fall squarely within Republican priorities. The schedule for the first 2 days of oral arguments this week tells the story. On Monday morning, the court will fling itself into the thick of environmental controversy in the latest case threatening the ability of the federal government to counter pollution. Having curtailed in June the ability of the EPA to curb emissions causing planet heating, the court will now hear arguments in Sackett versus EPA, which has the potential to whittle down the agency's power to uphold clean water standards. Then on Tuesday, the court enters blockbuster territory with Merrill versus Milligan. That case could topple the last remaining pillar of the Voting Rights Act, which has safeguarded the democratic rights of African Americans and other minority citizens for the past 57 years. As Michael Waldman, president of the Brennan Center for Justice, put it in a briefing this week, the case adds to the court's upcoming docket the raw issue of race in America. Merrill versus Milligan concerns Alabama, where Republican lawmakers want to draw up congressional district maps that would give black voters the power to send just one African-American member to Congress out of a total of 7 representatives, even though black Alabamians make up a quarter of the state's population. The map was blocked by 3 federal judges who ruled that it was racially discriminatory and that the state had engaged in racial gerrymandering. In its brief to the Supreme Court, Alabama effectively invites the conservative justices to make it virtually impossible to challenge racial gerrymandering. Should the state's view prevail, challengers would have to show the racial discrimination was the primary intent behind how district lines were drawn. Oh, so if the primary intent wasn't to actually do it because of race, but, to put the Republicans in the majority, then that's okay. Race was secondary. And I can tell you how they did it. It's one of the weirdest fucking districts I've ever seen. It took like the black section of Montgomery, came up through what they call the Black Belt of Alabama, which is between Montgomery and Birmingham, takes that section, and then the black section of Birmingham, and puts them all in one district. Birmingham and Montgomery being a good 3.5 hours away from each other, by the way. Maybe not that much. Maybe 2.5. Quite a ways. Should not be the same congressional district. That is an act called packing. And then everywhere else that there is a segregate or a population of black people in Alabama, they do what's called cracking. Be able to separate. And they do that in a lot of districts, like where I went to college, Johnson City, Tennessee, to make sure that the city could never go blue. The congressional district could never go blue because of the Johnson City. Like the congressional district runs right down the middle of the city, separating the college section from like the affluent housing section. It's really weird. So if all the on what's called tree streets, if all the bougie people on tree streets vote liberal and all the college kids vote liberal, it might one day swing that district, but they're not gonna let that happen. And that's not the federal congressional district. That's the state congressional district I'm talking about. Just to be clear, and I know this because I was trying to run a friend of mine for the state house. Yeah, it's not the state representative district. It's not even a congressional district. That's not the accurate title for it. I'm still sick. I've been sick, baby. I've been sick, baby.
And new Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson is now on the job. Chief Legal Correspondent Jan Crawford is here with us. Jan, this is a change. How much of a development is it to have a new justice on this court?
Well, I mean, obviously we have an historic new justice, the first black female justice on the Supreme Court. She'll take her seat on that bench tomorrow for arguments for the first time. We have 4.
Give her the flute too. Let her play the flute as she sits down. Really pissed Ben Shapiro off.
4 women on the court now. That's never happened before either. But what hasn't changed is this is a court that's firmly turned to the right. You've got 6 conservative justices, 3 liberals. It's a court that's willing to rethink decades of progressive rulings. So despite all the historic nature, Justice Jackson really won't change the balance of the Supreme Court at all.
You were here in June, and you left with kind of an ominous statement in talking about potential political earthquakes coming out of Supreme Court decisions, like what we saw out of the overturning of Roe versus Wade. The first key court case is Tuesday. What should we be expecting?
Well, I mean, let me just say right off the top, though, I mean, buckle your seatbelts, because as contentious as last term,
buckle up, buckaroo.
I think this term has the potential to be equally divisive. You're going to have issues on affirmative action, voting rights, LGBTQ discrimination, environmental cases, all of these cases, and they're starting right away on Tuesday with a major voting rights case from Alabama. Challengers are saying that Alabama is diluting the power of black voters because they're packing most of the state's black voters into one legislative district. They say there should be 2. Alabama is saying, well, we shouldn't even be considering race in drawing these legislative districts, that would violate the Constitution. If the court agrees with that, that would be a major rethinking of the Voting Rights Act. So this is a big case with significant implications well beyond the state of Alabama. But that's not the only issue this month on race. At the end of the month, we've got that affirmative action case coming out of Harvard and the University of North Carolina that is asking the Supreme Court, a group of white and Asian American students, to say that any consideration of race in admissions, affirmative action in college admissions, violates the Constitution. I expect the court.
This Harvard case is so wild to me because, like, Harvard's a private school. And if they can spend years discriminating against everybody else based on wealth, that's what legacy admissions are. That's one of the things every time I hear right-wingers, and they love using it, like, you might not even know this exists unless you talk to a lot of right-wingers. They love using this case at Harvard. Like, oh, the Asian students were discriminated against because they were smarter than everybody. That's not exactly what happened. But legacy admissions were them discriminating against people based on how much money they had. And nobody had a problem with that all this time. And all of a sudden they start letting black people into Harvard and people have a problem with it. It's weird. It's weird to me.
To agree with that decision and end the use of affirmative action, obviously quite a controversial decision. Then they have the case involving a Colorado website designer and whether or not she can be forced to design a website for same-sex couples who are getting married, despite her views that would be wrong, and she says it violates her free speech rights. And then, if that weren't enough, another case on voting rights, and this is all just coming down the pike quickly. Another case that could undermine the role of state courts in deciding and reviewing election procedures. So they'll continue to take more cases, but this is a Supreme Court that is saying we're being asked to decide these cases and we're going to do it, and even if it means our opinions are unpopular.
Well, and we've seen with public polling that there is this perception of a politicized court, and Gallup's numbers, they hadn't seen a drop like this in confidence since they began asking the question.
Right, and we have seen in the past controversial decisions lead to a dip in the court after Bush versus Gore. The court recovered from that. The question is now, is the basic legitimacy being questioned at all? Can they recover?
And this is going to be...
Spoiler alert, they can't. I think we need to kick authority in the balls.
He's kicking authority in the balls.
Just saying. That's just me, though. That's just me. Let's move over to January 6th. And a case that will begin this week, or a trial that will begin this week. Legal experts say that I need to minimize that. Legal experts say the interpretation of the Insurrection Act put forward by Stuart Rhodes and his lawyers would dangerously expand the power of the president. Which, my God, that is the last thing we need. On Tuesday, Stuart Rhodes appeared in federal courthouse across from the U.S. Capitol for the start of jury selection in his trial on charges of seditious conspiracy. Rhodes, the founder of the Oath Keepers militant group, wore a blue shirt, or a blue suit, glasses, and a patch over his left eye. Sir, I don't have a graphic for you, but just so you know, I would give anything in the world to piss in your open eye hole, just like I would Dan Crenshaw's. You can give me your eye pussy too, sir. And a patch over his left eye, which he lost in a handgun accident in the 1990s. He and four co-defendants looked on as their attorneys attempted to reject one potential juror after another who expressed left-leaning political views and skepticism of the Oath Keepers. Several said they had been deeply shaken by the storming of the Capitol. Yeah, how are you going to get an impartial jury over here? Like, yeah, I don't see the storming of the Capitol as an attack on the country. In the trial, Rhodes's lawyers will attempt to sway the jury using an argument rooted in Rhodes's version of right-wing militancy. The Oath Keepers, they will argue, were not at the Capitol to fight with law enforcement on January 6th. They were acting more as an extension of law enforcement, awaiting orders from Donald Trump, whom Rhodes had urged to invoke the Insurrection Act to prevent Joe Biden from taking power. He implored Trump to call up members of the Oath Keepers and other armed Americans to serve as part of a presidentially sanctioned militia. When Rhodes believed that the president would issue an order invoking the Insurrection Act, he was prepared to follow it. The government would like this court to believe that is sedition when in fact that is the opposite. It is loyalty to an oath taken in defense of the country. Lenny, good evening. My greetings up to you in south of Austin. Hope you are well tonight. Honestly, oh my God, they probably chewed through every juror objection they had. Absolutely. That would have been interesting, but this is a federal case, so I don't think there's any... All there is, like, okay, so with federal cases, you can have a reporter in the courtroom, you can have sketch artists. That's why you'll see a lot of sketches, but you can't have cameras or anything. There's no audio recordings, unfortunately, because I'm a nerd for that kind of shit. Absolute nerd for it for some reason, and I don't know why. Sit here and watch cop videos and court videos all day. And then get on here and do it on the show. Oh yeah, they have not rescheduled the January 6th hearings, but they did interview Ginny Thomas last week, who apparently believes her bullshit. Oh my God, if you have not seen it, go back in my YouTube. Find the video. It was about a month ago or maybe less. The video of the kid telling the cop to go fuck himself. It is like 15 minutes of just like, I enjoyed that so much. I wasn't going to watch it. It's not the kind of video we usually watch on this show just because we're doing like criminal justice reform. That's why we're watching these cop videos. But someone in the chat was like, you got to see this. And I'm so happy I watched it. It was so good. But like he, fucking shit. Daily Beast. That's why we have other browsers. I can't remember what I titled the video. It was something like kid tells cop to go F himself or something. Rick Scott is the head of the Senate Re-Election Committee. I can't remember, Republican Senate Re-Election Committee. Whatever it's called. It's right here in front of me. The head of the National Republican Senatorial Committee appeared flustered on CNN when asked about the social media post attacking Mitch McConnell and Elaine Chao.
Former Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao.
And by the way, I had a fantastic conversation. Usually we don't do politics on the Friday Night Freak show, but Sir Warm-Ups was on with me this past Friday, and we had a really chill conversation about politics, and he's probably more on the liberal side and even maybe a little more conservative than some people would be comfortable with. But we had this conversation because he's from Kentucky as well, and about how effective Mitch McConnell has been as a Republican legislator, one of the most effective politicians of all time. You would have to talk about McConnell in that conversation, and that Republicans hate him because of Donald Trump. That he has done the reason why the Supreme Court is just giving them gift after gift after gift is Mitch McConnell. Donald Trump didn't do that for him. And if Donald Trump existed absent Mitch McConnell, Trump wouldn't have been able to do that. We haven't got a new date yet, but I'll let you know. I would expect them to announce it like tomorrow. But they may also, want people to recover from the hurricane. Biden's going to be going to Florida on Wednesday, I think. So they may, out of respect for Ian, because we're gonna get to that. I don't know what the death toll is now, but it's dozens in Florida, and they are still in search and rescue mode. But we're gonna talk about that here in just a little bit. First, this was Donald Trump's tweet on truth. The truth that he tweeted. He truthered on truthed. Jesus. It's in the oh God, is it that high? The last count I heard was like 36. But also, I usually don't read the news until I get on here with you guys. Like, I stay oblivious. You're seeing my honest reactions to most of these things. There are some things I like to do a little research into and like have that gotcha moment and shit. And that's another time, like, we'll do segments on this show and they will bomb because I didn't know that that what we were reading wasn't like blah blah blah. It's called a truth. You truth on truth. You send a truth on Truth Social. Is McConnell approving all of these trillions of dollars worth of Democrat-sponsored bills without even the slightest bit of negotiation because he hates Donald J. Trump? Trump said. And he knows I'm strongly opposed to them, or is he doing it because he believes in the fake and highly destructive Green New Deal and is willing to take the country down with him? In any event, either reason is unacceptable. He has a death wish, must immediately seek help and advice from his China-loving wife. Can I say that? Coco, which I've never heard an Asian person referred to as Coco. Of all the Coco Chow. Elaine Chow is her name. I defend this, Rick Scott. Defend this.
As, quote, China-loving and Coco Chow. You're a member of the Senate GOP leadership.
I'm sorry, Lenny. I didn't even notice that. Sky Comet is trying to tell you. I am on Sunday through Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll come on. We'll do special events and stuff. You'll see me on doing Trump rallies when I catch them. We've got a whole debate schedule for this month. We'll be doing January 6th hearings, any real important legislative stuff or any kind of court cases. We'll come on. I'll do a special report and we'll come on like during the day and cover this shit. But every night, not every night, Sunday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Friday nights, we do the Friday Night Freak Show. Expect me on the Troll Patrol on Friday nights all this month, though, because we've got debates to do. And I love covering the debates. I had a lot of fun with Beto and Greg Abbott this past week. We've got Mandela Barnes and Ron Johnson in the Wisconsin Senate race coming up. Ted Budd and Sherry Beasley in the North Carolina Senate race. What's the other one? Hold on. We got one more. Blake Masters and Mark Kelly in the Arizona Senate race. That's on Thursday night. I'm very much looking forward to that. So yeah, sorry about that, Lenny. I missed the question. Lenny, thank you for the sub. You are awesome. By subbing, you are doing your best to kick authority in the balls.
He's kicking authority in the balls.
All right, Rick Scott, defend that Trump truth that he truthed on Truth Social.
Are you okay with this?
Well, look, I can never talk about, respond to why anybody else says what they said, but here's what is the way I looked at it is, I think, what the president is saying is, there's been a lot of money spent over the last 2 years. We've got to make sure we don't keep caving to Democrats. It's causing unbelievable inflation and causing more and more debt.
He referred to Trump as the person, what the person is saying. We're talking about Trump.
What the president is saying is,
oh, he said president. I'm sorry.
There's been a lot of money spent over the last 2 years. We've got to make sure we don't keep caving to Democrats. It's causing unbelievable inflation and causing more and more debt. As you know, the president likes to give people nicknames. You can ask him how he came up with the nickname. I'm sure he has a nickname for me.
Guy comment. Warlord, who has been one of my most loyal fans. He's been my ride or die for the longest time. Warlord leaves me for the Dragon Show. Warlord leaves me for the Dragon Show. That's where Warlord is.
But here's what I know: we got to watch how we spend our money. We got to stop this inflation. And I don't condone violence, and I hope no one else condones violence.
Nicknames are one thing, but this appears racist. Is that okay?
Pretty racist.
It's never ever okay to be a racist. Look, I think you always have to be careful. If you're in the public, eye, how you say things. You want to make sure you're inclusive. You want to make sure, like yesterday in the neighborhood I was in, we had people probably from 10 countries that live there, and so that's what's great about this country. And what I know what I try to do is try to make sure everybody, especially all their kids, believe they have a hope and they can live the dream of this country. So I hope no one is racist. I hope no one says anything that's inappropriate. So I'm going to do everything I can.
Senator, thank you. Again, that was so beyond the pale that I really, as a member of the leadership, I had to ask you about it. But you are again, understandably focused on the devastation in your home state. And
I mean, fair enough. He is in Florida, I would assume. I really don't care what CNN does at this point. I'm going to tell you not to watch cable news at all. I mean, yes, we watch clips here on this show, but as for actually sitting down and consuming it, I wouldn't. You are far better off consuming some news content on YouTube, like fucking Cody Johnston. Go watch something he did reporting on the news. Or even if you want a more shitlib kind of take, go watch Jesse Dollemore. Go watch that kind of news reporting. Far better than what is going on CNN or MSNBC. But also don't get your news from YouTubers as well. I don't trust but verify. Oh, I'm still sick and I'm not high enough for this shit. Go watch Vice News. Well, I mean, so one of Rob's friends I got into an argument with on Rob's Facebook, producer Dave. Sky comment, shout out Echoplex. Stoop for my bread line. All kinds of cool people coming in here. Good evening, my friends. Since you guys just got here, I would like to show off my newest graphic just because it's fun and I spend a lot of time doing it. We around here, we like to kick authority in the balls.
He's kicking authority in the balls.
And if you happen to be new here and you've never heard me sum up my political leanings, they can all be summed up with one phrase. I would give anything in the world to piss in Dan Crenshaw's open eye hole. Give me that eye, pussy, sir. Oh, I love you guys. Thank you for being here. We're gonna keep on chugging on with the news. Florida is still in a state of search and rescue. as was referenced there with Rick Scott, Skeletor.
FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell. Administrator Criswell, you were just in Florida yesterday. Give us a sense from what you saw of the scope of this catastrophe.
Good morning, John. You're right. I spent the last 2 days in Florida, Friday traveling with the governor and Saturday traveling around to see some other.
Mandy, good evening.
What I can tell you is that there is a lot of devastation, significant damage in the point of impact on the west coast of Florida, but still homes underwater in the central part of Florida as they were still doing active rescues right before we got there on Saturday afternoon. And so this is going to be a long road to recovery, and there are a lot of people that are impacted. But we also know that we're still actively in the search and rescue phase, trying to make sure that we are accounting for everybody that was in the storm's path and that we go through every home to make sure that we don't leave anybody behind.
As you mentioned, you spent a lot of time with Governor DeSantis yesterday, or on Friday. What is your sense of the coordination between the Biden administration and the DeSantis administration on this?
Yeah, I spent the whole day with Governor DeSantis on Friday and wanted to really hear what his concerns were and what resources he might need to help support this. I committed to him that we would continue to bring in resources to meet the needs, not just for this response and the stabilization, but as we go into the recovery efforts. And so it was good to be able to see some of the damages and talk to the people directly while we were together, so then he could let me know what kind of resources and assistance he might need.
Yeah, I wonder how DeSantis talks to somebody from FEMA coming to assess damage for his state. Does he still put on the gruff exterior? Does he talk like Trump? Or is he a human being? Because I've honestly never seen the man act like a human being. Now, I have not gone back. He was a congressman before he was governor. He was a congressman during Trump. So I have not watched his move to Trumpism what he was like, but I have never seen Ron DeSantis act like a human being.
And the death toll, I mean, we've been talking about this being the deadliest hurricane for Florida in more than 60 years. Why was it so high? Was it because the forecast was off? It was expected to hit Tampa and ended up
at least 76
near Fort Myers, or was it because local officials, particularly in Lee County, delayed in issuing an evacuation order?
Yeah, this was a catastrophic hurricane, John, which we knew was going to have devastating impacts and widespread impacts. The storm itself was fairly unpredictable in the days leading up to landfall. Just 72 hours before landfall, the Fort Myers and Lee County area were not even in the cone of the hurricane. And as it continued to move south, you know, the local officials immediately, as soon as they knew that they were in that threat zone, made the decisions to evacuate and get people to safety. We knew that there was going to be a significant impact to life here, and so we pre-staged a large number of search and rescue resources from across the federal family to embed right with the state resources to go in immediately following the storm, and that's exactly what they did. They were out before daybreak on Thursday going into these communities and making sure that they were finding people that needed immediate assistance. They are still there today, going house by house to make sure we account for everybody.
And you still have a major effort going on in Puerto Rico.
We're far from.
What can you tell us about the situation?
The final death toll, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we have not stopped our response efforts and our recovery efforts in Puerto Rico. Hurricane Fiona left significant impacts across the island, and we saw island-wide power outages that, as of my report yesterday morning, 90% of the customers.
I would also like to point out that they are still in the midst of their recovery effort from Maria 5 years ago in Puerto Rico.
In Puerto Rico have been restored with power. We are committed to working with the Commonwealth. We are bringing in our federal partners to make sure that we continue to move forward in supporting all of those people that have been impacted by that, to include individuals that have had a lot of damage to their homes, a lot of water damage this time as compared to previous hurricanes. And so we've got people on the ground. They've been there since the storm made landfall. They're going to stay with the people of Puerto Rico as we go through the recovery efforts there.
All right, FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell, thank you for taking time.
Lenny, do you know what day Biden is going to Puerto Rico? Is he going like on Tuesday and then he's going to visit Florida on Wednesday? FREAKIN, good evening. Welcome. Here's the crazy part. Let's talk about some Florida politicians here. Rubio and Scott call for Ian relief as Florida GOP votes against FEMA funding.
Come on, man.
Florida Senators Marco Rubio and Rick Scott called on Senate leaders Friday to provide more funding to help Florida rebuild after the devastating Hurricane Ian wiped out buildings, roads, and power for millions of people. Now, Rubio said he would not vote for it if it was not clean. I do want to point that out. Several members of Congress from Florida previously voted against a short-term spending bill that includes aid for disaster relief. Rubio and Scott sent a joint letter to the Senate Appropriations Committee chairs that requested much-needed assistance to Florida. Hurricane Ian will be remembered and studied as one of the most devastating hurricanes to hit the United States. And I want you guys to picture the Simpsons meme where Homer is like, most devastating hurricane to hit the United States yet. A robust and timely federal response, including through supplemental programs and funding, will be required to ensure that sufficient resources are provided to rebuild critical infrastructure and public service capacity and to assist our fellow Floridians in rebuilding their lives. Rubio's office did not immediately return Axios' request for comment. Florida lawmakers already opposed major disaster relief this week. The Senate passed a stopgap bill on Thursday to fund the government through December that included $18.8 billion fund for the Federal Emergency Management Agency to help states with natural disaster. Scott voted against the bill and Rubio was not present for it. The House voted in favor of the bill on Friday, and all 16 GOP members of Florida's congressional team voted against it. If Florida being uninhabitable gets children away from Matt Gaetz, then maybe that's a good thing. Matt Gaetz went on with Charlie Kirk, wow, to talk about how he lives in sexual anarchy.
You live in sexual anarchy?
The man who said that. I don't even remember what he said that about. I've played that so many times. I don't even remember what he said it about now. Talking about sexual and it was like, no, it was 50 Cent, wasn't it? It was like the Super Bowl and the women twerking in front of 50 Cent. That's what he was talking about. The women dancing during the Super Bowl halftime show. I think that was what sexual anarchy was in reference to. That totally out of bounds. Sexual anarchy. Can't have any of that. But accused child sex trafficker, we're going to have him on the show. And we're going to defend him and call it a smear campaign by the DOJ.
Try to destroy his reputation. Try to destroy his name. I'm very proud at Turning Point USA. We did not give in to this. He spoke at our events throughout this. He came on our program throughout all of this.
Yes.
Not everyone will be able to...
Yes, throughout all of this, Charlie Kirk took Matt Gaetz, an accused child sex trafficker, to an event that targets students, high school students, college students. I think TBUSA predominantly focuses on college. Took Matt Gaetz to go speak at colleges and events targeting young adults, late teens.
Let's say the same, and he joins us right now, hopefully for a victory lap. Congressman Matt Gaetz is here. Matt,
a victory lap.
Thanks for having me, Charlie. The Washington Post report was not a big surprise to me because I know the things I've done and the things I haven't, but it was certainly welcome news. And I think back to when a CNN
Wait, what's he talking about?
caught by Project Veritas on a recording saying that they knew they were propagandizing my life, but they were purposefully running baseless allegations against me over and over because I'm a...
I did not see this headline. Career prosecutors recommend no charges for Gates in sex trafficking probe. Wow. I kind of figured he was going to jail after the election. I didn't know this had happened.
Effective. They admitted it.
Let's see what they actually admitted here, sir. Career prosecutors recommend no charges for Gates. Oh, I'm in the wrong browser. Let me play musical browsers here. This one will block it. Career prosecutors have recommended against charging Representative Matt Gaetz in a long-running sex trafficking investigation, telling Justice Department superiors that a conviction is unlikely in part because of credibility questions with the two central witnesses, according to people familiar with the matter. Senior department officials have not made a final decision on whether to charge Gaetz, but it is rare for such advice to be rejected, these people told the Washington Post, speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss the deliberations. They added that it is always possible additional evidence emerges that could alter prosecutors' understanding of the case. Nevertheless, it is unlikely that federal authorities will charge Gaetz with a crime in an investigation that started in late 2020 and focused on his alleged involvement with a 17-year-old girl several years earlier. Gaetz, 40, has repeatedly denied wrongdoing, saying he has never paid for sex. He also said the only time he had sex with a 17-year-old was when he was also 17. So there you go.
Admitted that my work in Congress, the tough questions I ask Biden administration officials, the legislation that I support, that's the reason.
Merkin, I wouldn't doubt it.
And I'm glad to be on the other side of it, working hard for the good folks in my district.
Yeah, and so...
Well, now, remember that the report was basically a source speaking on anonymity, just saying, I think it's unlikely. We don't know for sure yet. And one of the things that's interesting is that, and we've seen this confirmed, is Garland's Justice Department doesn't leak. So it's kind of odd we would be hearing this.
So, Matt, just for a second, and I know you have to be careful the way you talk about some of this stuff, and your lawyers, I'm sure, are, prepping you, and I totally respect and appreciate that, and I support it. But can you talk a little bit, because you did make a decision when these leaks happened and the smear campaign continued against, or started against you. You decided to be public, to do events. You decided to not just retreat and resign, but to almost lean in and do things publicly and to continue your work. Can you talk about that calculus you made?
Like literally going and doing a Twitch live event the day after a report was published by Bloomberg, that predators were using Twitch to pick up underage children. I'm not even making this up.
I learned it from President Trump. I learned that
it might not have been the day after, but it's not long after.
They tried everything they could to get President Trump off his game with abject lies. Lies that were told by the FBI, that were cycled through a series of authorized leaks to the mainstream media and then aggregated and repeated breathlessly. And he continued to focus on what the American people needed. And so I really took a lot of comfort in observing his approach to that. And look, I mean, I did hear all the talking heads on MSNBC and elsewhere say, Matt Gaetz is crazy. Why is he out in public denying these things and talking about these things? Any smart lawyer would tell him to go hide under his bed and never come out. And frankly, that's just not the way innocent people behave. If you didn't do something and people are accusing you of it, I wanted to be out in front of the country answering questions. I came on your program.
That's right.
We had
exactly, Lenny. Why do you want to pardon?
Anything you want to ask me, and I am going to lay out the truth.
Into perpetuity.
Even though, when I told the country that there were people trying to use lies to shake down my family for $25 million,
now that
it probably sounded bizarre.
That has been proven by a jury of the peers, that there was a blackmail operation against your family. That's legit.
Yes. And
he
there
never
was
said it
someone who was
wasn't.
sentenced
Like, we
to
always
prison
knew it
for
was.
5 years for trying to use this web of lies to try to extract money from my family. So each and every day, the things that I said from the beginning were borne out to be true, and a lot of the media smears.
No, I think you're a sleazy person. That's why you keep getting involved with sleazy people.
So here's some context. Matt Gaetz, in the calendar year 2020, probably did 100 events, 300 cable news hits, very viral on social media, very articulate, drove the media nuts, was able to defend the MAGA agenda, was able to build the base, was able to be a fresh face. And
Charlie Kirk looks older than me now, doesn't
kind
he?
of voice. The media saw that as a threat in Congress, and they wanted to torpedo it. Not just the media, the Uniparty. I think both parties were involved in this, because Matt Gaetz spoke out against foreign wars. Matt Gaetz spoke out against the intelligence agency. Matt Gaetz talked about all these different things that you're not supposed to talk about. So then the Department of Justice,
when I say that, I do believe Charlie Kirk is like
off the chessboard.
5 or 6 years younger than me. I think he's like 31 or 32 or something.
Then they're going to try to go through character assassination. They're going to go through character assassination via the Justice Department. So the evidence was never there, but all they need is a rumor. So they tried the next
28,
best thing, which is destroy your character via rumor. And I remember when the story came out, the first reaction I had, I remember exactly where I was. I was in
Holy shit. We're not ageist around here, Lenny. Matter of fact, my audience, I get the YouTube data and everything. My audience skews older.
Naples, Florida. I said, Matt is a serious threat to the regime. This is a huge move. This is the stuff they do against four-star generals that speak out. This is they don't do this against congressmen very often. And basically they were alleging the awful things. I don't have to get into the allegations because they're not true. And so then
cheers,
they
Lenny.
try to put Matt in a penalty box, and I think the regime was shocked and stunned the way you reacted. The way you reacted was that, no, I'm going to not even defend. There's nothing here. And you kept on doing events. It was purely a tactic. It was a tactical move by the Democrats and by the Uniparty to destroy one of our most articulate voices. And now, 18 months later, you have to spend all these money on legal fees.
Articulate in any way?
Blackmail your family is going to jail, a legit component to this. Nothing as much of an apology or recourse. Matt, are you going to sue the federal government for what they made you go through here?
Well, I think the federal government enjoys sovereign immunity, so I probably won't be able to sue them. But I am taking counsel of, some of the just baseless stories that were written about me, and particularly when CNN has
the federal government didn't do anything to you.
We are doing this with malice. We know these things are propaganda.
But you can sue the federal government if they violate your rights.
Matt Gaetz to be less effective.
You're a congressman. You should know that.
Agenda. I mean, it's laid out in Technicolor, and so I am looking at that. But the fights I want to be in are the fights on behalf of our fellow Americans, people who are mistreated as a consequence of.
This shouldn't bother me, but as an audiovisual technician, like someone who enjoys like history and stuff, Technicolor was a form of painting film. Does he know what Technicolor means? What that idiom doesn't make sense to me. Not to as if it matters. But it's a technique employed by a company to paint film, to colorize film, sir.
Of January 6th, people who are suffering under this economy, people who can't afford gas to work. So I don't want to become so enveloped in what happened to me that I miss being in the fight for our regular Americans.
But because, Matt, you know that, and I understand that's the right answer for you, but it's my job also to broaden this for everybody.
I'm enveloped in this Technicolor thing over here. I'm fucked up. I'm fucked up with it.
Soviet tactic, right? They saw you as a threat. They wanted to put you on public display. They wanted to try to shut your mouth. Right? They didn't.
What Charlie Kirk's trying to say is that Matt Gaetz is kicking authority in the balls.
He's kicking authority in the balls.
We know that's not true.
Like how you were snarky on Twitter. They didn't like how you drew big crowds. They didn't like, and I have a whole theory There was no coincidence the leak happened just weeks after you went to Wyoming and drew 700 people against then Congresswoman Liz Cheney. Remember that? You go out to Wyoming, you draw a big crowd, everyone writes about it, and Politico.
I love how you went out to Wyoming and drew 700 people. That's a huge crowd. That is almost everybody in Wyoming.
Said, my goodness, he did it. I can't believe it. He drew a big crowd, a Florida congressman in Wyoming. And then just by coincidence, we're supposed to believe that the same Cheney-built deep state leaked something against you. I think that there's cause and effect there. I really do. But anyway, I don't want to dwell on this too much, but I just want to tell our audience that what happened here is outrageous. It could happen to anybody.
Between all the clips and the VOD and everything, 700 people gonna watch this fucking show tonight. I mean, Matt Gaetz, a congressman, couldn't draw more than 700 people in Montana. I'm sorry, Wyoming. Frank Zappa moving to Montana soon. And then like his okay. Matt Gaetz did a Twitch. Matt Gaetz did a Twitch stream the other day.
Matt Gaetz not just survived, but he's stronger than ever. Now, my own personal opinion is if you saw Matt Gaetz, freed up before to say what he wants, I mean, now it's going to be scorched earth, right? So speaking of which, Matt, you have said that you are afraid the Republican establishment does not want to pursue impeachment proceedings against Biden and his criminals in his cabinet. I saw that, and it caught my eye the other day. Elaborate.
A lot of Republicans.
Oh, they're going to talk about impeaching Biden. Matt Gaetz draws only 6 viewers to his inaugural Twitch stream. I think I had more than 6 viewers on the first Troll Patrol. Now, I mean, after I started doing it regularly, there's times there was only 2 or 3 people here. But now, come on, Matt Gaetz. You've got some name recognition, I would assume.
Right now think that we can take the majority and return everything back to their version of normal. Unfortunately, that is managed American decline. I have Republicans fighting against my desire to immediately announce an impeachment inquiry into Mayorkas. I mean, if you're not...
I just happened to pop over there to be able to approve Hildebeest saying, "Get fucked, Matt. Get fucked, Matt."
If you're a Republican and you're not for impeaching Mayorkas for what he's done to the border on purpose, then I don't really think that you share the energy and the values of a lot of the people who are actually knocking on the doors and making phone calls and talking to voters with Tyler out in Mesa, Arizona. So I think that we have to have a unified Republican strategy around these investigations and impeachments. And you know what? The establishment is still going to be around. People out in America need to know the establishment hasn't left Washington. A matter of fact, I got a call from the Washington Post the other day, Charlie, and a reporter said, we have sourcing that you, Matt Gaetz, were talking about the need to have Charlie Kirk as the head of the Republican National Committee. And I was not in a position to deny that reporting. And you are the most energetic organizer in our movement. Kind. And I do think we need to think about these institutions like.
Okay, earlier, we were all talking about how old Charlie Kirk looks. Motherfucker is 28.
The Republican National Committee as a springboard to the type of energy and enthusiasm that will build out a policy agenda that we could actually execute, rather than just having endless little palm card releases of talking points, not really an agenda.
Yeah, and just for everyone's clear, I love being a radio host. Okay, let's just be very clear. And I appreciate the campaign led by Matt Gaetz to try to draft me to run the RNC. Boy, that would be fun. Matt, in closing here, what candidates in particular are you spending your time and energy and resources? I think you're going to be fine in your race to comfortably Republican district, but where are you spending your time, energy, and resources? What candidates do you like the best? And then I know you got to run for votes.
Let me give you 3 quick ones. The America First warrior on the West Coast is Joe Kent. He beat Jamie Herrera Butler in a primary, but faces a tough general. So if you can help out Joe Kent in Washington State. Up in the Northeast, Caroline Leavitt is running an inspirational campaign in New Hampshire. And I've got to mention my Florida woman buddy, Anna Paulina Luna, who is going to flip Charlie Crist's seat. And she's got a great connection to Turning Point. I know Turning Point was a springboard
graduate,
for her.
We could could say, right? She went through the whole process, had a lot of
groomed her. You could say you groomed her, couldn't you, Charlie?
Congress, which I think will be our first member of Congress, we could say, from turning point to Congress. That'd be kind of fun, right? So,
Definitely not the last.
Just the beginning.
What's up, First? Good evening, my friend. Thank you for being here. I got distracted. I forgot what I was going to do. I was going to pack a bong. I got to pack a bong. Oh, we got to do Louis Gohmert here. So, that's... He brought up congressional races. That's what it was. So I went over the list of debates we're going to be watching here on the Troll Patrol, and it's mainly focused on governor's races and Senate races. I don't have any House races. And I want to ask you guys if you have opinions on this, and if you want to chime in on any House races that you want to watch. The problem that I ran into when looking at the House races for debates that we might watch in the next month, the races that have names in them of people that would be entertaining to watch, or people that you would want, like watching Katie Porter. Katie Porter's in a relatively safe district. Her district leans Democrat, and she's probably going to win re-election. The districts where it's competitive don't really have any names we really know. So, do you guys want to watch debates of these representatives in... If I pick some debates to watch for House races, would you want to watch debates that are people you probably don't know, but are the consequential seats coming up in November? Or would you rather watch debates with people you know, but are probably going to win re-election? That's my question. Would you want to watch, Katie Porter, who does have a decent challenger? That would definitely be the one I pick if we go the name recognition. Lenny, that we really enjoyed the Beto Abbott debate on Friday. Unfortunately, that is the only debate. Yeah, in terms of the Senate races that we're watching, let me give you the rundown, and this is kind of in order. Starting this week, the Arizona Senate race, Blake Masters and Mark Kelly on Thursday. On Friday, Mandela Barnes and Ron Johnson in the Wisconsin Senate race. Also on Friday, Ted Budd and Cherry Beasley in the North Carolina Senate race. October 10th is J.D. Vance and Tim Ryan in Ohio. And October 12th, that is Lake against Hobbs in the governor's race in Arizona. Carrie Lake is batshit crazy. That's going to be a fun one to watch. Tudor Dixon takes on Democratic incumbent Governor Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan on October 13th. We get another Johnson-Barnes debate on October 13th as well. On October 14th, that's Raphael Warnock, the incumbent Democratic senator from Georgia, taking on Herschel Walker, who is batshit fucking crazy. There is going to be an Evers-Michaels debate or Mickles debate in Wisconsin, but I don't know that we have a date for that yet. Abrams-Kemp in Georgia. J.D. Vance and Tim Ryan again on October 17th. Demings-Rubio on October 18th. Bennett-O'Day in Colorado on October 19th. DeSantis-Christ on 20 in the Florida governor's race. The Nevada Senate race, Catherine Cortez Masto taking on, that's the Democratic incumbent taking on Republican challenger Adam Laxalt on October 20th. The one everybody is waiting for on October 25th, Oz versus Fetterman. Then hopefully we'll also get a Mastriano-Shapiro debate. That one's still up in the air. Bolduc-Hassan in the New Hampshire Senate race. That debate is also still up in the air, but I'm going to keep checking to see if we have a date on that one. So that's the debate rundown for this month. I'm going to add to it as well. There's probably going to be a few more. We watching debates here on this channel. But do chime in, especially on the Discord, if you want to watch more of the name value people you know, or if you'd rather watch the races that are consequential to the makeup of the House.
Mr. Speaker, I just point out that
This is Representative Jim Jordan, who I never miss an opportunity to say covered up sexual abuse on the wrestling team at Ohio State University. Apparently, Jim Jordan is going to yield some time to his colleague, Louis Gohmert, who is, gonna say some batshit crazy stuff.
I find it interesting. First, we had Mr. Cicilline, the chair of the subcommittee, say that DOJ and FTC don't get the money. It has to be appropriated next year. But then the chairman of the full committee, Mr. Nadler, said, we know how the money is going to be spent. It's going to be spent on antitrust enforcement. So it can't be both. We know what's going to happen. This money is going to wind up in DOJ and FTC, and we know their track record and how they've been treating the American citizen. But I just find it interesting that the Democrats can't even get their argument straight, which just reinforces why this bill should not pass, because in the end, it is more money for the Department of Justice. The same Department of Justice has done their egregious actions over the last several months. And with that,
he looks like somebody you would not let watch your children, that's for sure. And I mean, clearly he has a track record of letting kids get sexually abused, so
I would yield to the former judge, great member of the Judiciary Committee, a friend of mine from the great state of Texas, Mr. Gohmert. 3 minutes?
First, I'm so glad you brought that up. SNL from last night had a fantastic joke. Don't accuse me of stealing it. I'm attributing it to Michael Che last night from SNL. Marjorie Taylor Greene's husband blamed the divorce on irreconcilable differences. Marjorie Taylor Greene blamed the Jews. Thank you, Michael Che, for that one. It was fantastic. Here is Louis Gohmert talking about the FBI.
Thank you. So we're hearing that we have got to give DOJ and FTC all this authority to supervise and make sure that the big tech is properly investigated. But our committee has oversight over Department of Justice, and we have not done oversight as a committee to stop what's been going on. And I can understand Heritage Foundation, some of these others, they haven't seen
fuck the Heritage Foundation
whistleblower complaints that Jim Jordan and I've been seeing. I've gotten double digits now myself that were not counted in the 14 that the committee got. It sounds like Sodom and Gomorrah up there. We've got complaints this week about the sexual harassment, about sexual impropriety.
What in the fuck is he talking about?
You live in sexual anarchy?
Sir, will you repeat that?
A friend of mine from the great state of Texas, Mr. Gohmert. 3 minutes? 3 minutes.
Thank you. So we're hearing that we have got to give DOJ and FTC all this authority to supervise and make sure that the big tech is properly investigated. But our committee has oversight over Department of Justice, and we have not done oversight as a committee to stop what's been going on. And I can understand Heritage Foundation, some of these others, they haven't seen the whistleblower complaints that Jim Jordan and I've been seeing. I've gotten double digits now myself that were not counted in the 14 that the committee got. It sounds like Sodom and Gomorrah up there.
I'm sorry, Hilda Beast.
This week about the sexual harassment, about sexual improprieties on the top floor, the 7th floor where the headquarters is.
Of the DOJ.
FBI and all the...
Madison Cawthorn told us you guys were having coked out orgies. And when you're talking about a 70-year-old coked out man in an orgy, Louis Gohmert?
Favors and all the intimidation that goes along with sexual improprieties. And then you want the DOJ, the people that told the big tech that story about Hunter's laptop, that's Russian disinformation, which they're good at saying.
Guys, did you have your bingo cards out? If you follow Echoplex Media, you might have had a bingo card out. And if you had your bingo card, I think you've hit bingo with Louis Gohmert in this one fucking speech.
About the sexual harassment, about sexual improprieties on the top floor, the 7th floor, where the headquarters is of the FBI.
Let me guess, they got children. They're drinking adrenochrome.
The intimidation that goes along with sexual improprieties. And then you want the DOJ, the people that told...
Like, I was joking, but that's really what he's saying, isn't it? This is like he is a smart enough politician, just smart enough to be able to code his language that he is speaking straight to QAnon, but he's saying it in just a vague enough way that you have to be listening carefully. Like, no shit, he's saying that like they're doing the Pizzagate stuff over there. That's exactly what he is implying. Exactly what he's implying.
Floor, the 7th floor, where the headquarters is of the FBI, and all the favors and all the intimidation that goes along with sexual improprieties. And then you want the DOJ, the people that told the big tech that story about Hunter's laptop, that's Russian disinformation, which they're good at saying because they pass that on about Russian collusion. And any time that President Trump or people in his...
Well, Fist, I'm glad you asked that question because I was on Echoplex Media the other night and we watched My Son Hunter. And I can tell you that they absolutely believe that Joe Biden secretly picks up his son in a limo every few years and gives him like the rundown of all the different shady business deals he wants him to do. And every now and again, when Hunter is doing coke and having an orgy at this house over in Ukraine, Joe Biden will show up and he has a cape on. And they've shot it with a bird's eye view. And I still haven't figured out why Joe Biden had the cape on. It's a fucked up movie. It's a fucked up movie.
His administration said anything, here came the DOJ whispering in people's ears, that's Russian disinformation. Look, these are the last people that we need to trust with reining in the big tech because we've seen the techniques. And I got to give them credit, although there is apparently a tremendous amount of corruption at the FBI and the DOJ that has not been reined in. I got to give them credit. When it comes to intimidation and manipulation, they are right there, and I don't say this lightly, they're right there with the Gestapo. I've had FBI agents talk to me about, remember when we used to call the attorney?
Look, okay, I'm pretty sure that if she's sitting here on this side, she is a Republican aide. She can't contain her laughter at how stupid this motherfucker is. Oh. Right-wingers are morons.
Do you think we're stupid? You think we're fools?
Yes. Absolute fucking, look at her face. She's about ready to die. This is... She knows how stupid he sounds.
They're right there with the Gestapo. I've had FBI agents talk to me about, remember when we used to call the attorney of people that we knew were not violent, even though they committed very serious felonies? We'd tell them when to report, they reported. We didn't use the Gestapo tactics of going in the dark, beating down doors, dragging them out in their underwear to parade in front of cameras that they leaked inappropriately.
For those who don't know what he's talking about, is Roger Stone. He is referring specifically to Roger Stone. And if I had to guess who leaked it to the media, Roger Stone probably knew they were coming and leaked it to the media.
Leaked information to. This is a different DOJ. They don't need more money. They need less until they are made to their help to eliminate their corruption, and they start cleaning up their own act, which Christopher Wray and unfortunately Merrick Garland have not done.
But I would bet money that Roger Stone had somebody on the inside tip him off to the FBI, and he probably didn't have a lot of time either. They called him a few hours before. They tried to keep it as compartmentalized as they could. But, like, that stuff is known in the few hours before it happens to, like, the local agencies and everything. They have to cooperate. Roger Stone was probably tipped off a few hours before the raid happened, and he's the one that had the cameras there. Radical Disability. Good evening. Thank you for being a freaking follower, my friend. But that would not surprise me at all. You guys all know who Roger Stone is. If you don't, there's a fantastic documentary about him called Get Me Roger Stone. The sad part is like I feel like I would like the guy. Other than the fact that he acts completely unethical. That I hate about him. But like, just to sit around and have a drink and talk about politics because he doesn't actually believe any right-wing bullshit. I think he's a fucking sociopath. I don't know. And in the documentary about him, like he's there. He's a figure in the documentary. He's gonna tell you all about his life. It's crazy. All right, I'm gonna hit the content warning for this next one. If some of you are new, it's a mix of hard news and fuckery here on this show. Because I bounce back and forth between wanting to do a show with a smiling troll head and also doing a show that actually like informs people. So it's a weird dichotomy around here. So we do stories like this sometimes. Most of the time, actually. This show's a bummer most of the time. I'm sorry. But you get fun shit sometimes. And we end with a kitty video or a puppy video. They're human beings. Alabama prisoners strike to protest abusive conditions, excessive sentencing. Inmates across the deep red state are refusing to work, demanding better treatment and an overall of out-of-whack standards that offer little chance of rehabilitation. The Alabama prison system is one of the absolute worst in the country. That is one of the absolute worst in the world. Inmate at the Fountain Correctional Facility in Atmore, Alabama, which, look up that prison. Fucking riots happen at it all the time. It is constantly a health hazard where they will overheat the prisoners and cause them to die. It is insane, the shit that goes on at that fucking prison. I know this because I worked at a TV station in Huntsville. And the deluge of stories we did about that prison in the year and a half I worked there blew my fucking mind. Inmate at the Fountain Correctional Facility in Atmore, Alabama, went to prison at the age of 17. Today he's 47, with 20 more years to go on a half-century prison term he got before he was even an adult. Reverse thread, yes. If you're gonna commit crime, probably don't do it in Alabama. Probably don't. Alabama is lock 'em up and throw away the key, he tells Rolling Stone. It's one of the many reasons Justice and nearly 10,000 other inmates in Alabama have gone on strike, abandoning posts in the dining room and laundry, as well as workshops where they make cheap license plates in exchange for little to no money. And that's something that pisses me off so bad. If you're going to make inmates work, pay them at least minimum wage, motherfuckers, because you want them to be able to do something when they get on the outside. They're not going to be able to do something if they don't have fucking resources. You know what? If you're in 10, 15 years and you have to fucking work and you make at least minimum wage, you are going to have at least a little something that you might be able to make something of yourself with when you get out. Sorry, criminal justice and prison reform is one of my my issues I'm most passionate about. From day one, the guards cut back their food from 3 to 2 meals a day. There have been reports of organizers being jumped by guards and thrown into solitary. Still, the men Rolling Stone spoke with are resolute, with some even sounding giddy that their activism is getting attention in the press. The movement reminds justice of the famous uprising in Attica with the same refrain: "We are men, we are human beings." And yes, one of the reasons why we have such a high recidivism rate is because we don't treat them like fucking human beings. Go to a prison in Norway, the prison guards actually do the work with you. Prison labor only benefits the powerful. Indeed. It's another way that slavery is still alive and well in this country. Did one of those little mouth farts with my lip. Their demands include an immediate retroactive repeal of the state's habitual offender laws, creation of a statewide conviction integrity unit, streamlined review for medical furloughs, reduction of the minimum of 30 years served before juveniles with life sentences are eligible for parole, and a stop to life without parole sentences. They're also demanding a more transparent parole process. The same day the strike began, Governor Kay Ivey, or as we called her in Alabama, Governor Mimo. Same day the strike began, Governor Kay Ivey's office called those demands unwelcome and unreasonable. Unwelcome, maybe, Justice retorted. I started to do Kay Ivey's voice. It was Justice, the prisoner that was being interviewed by Rolling Stone. Unwelcome, maybe, but unreasonable. Our demands are not only reasonable, but fully in line with maintaining public safety. It's hard to overstate how out of whack, unreasonable even U.S. sentences and prison conditions are compared to most of the world. Andres Breivik, the fascist mass shooter that killed 77 people, mostly children, in cold blood, got Norway's maximum of 21 years. Life without parole has been abolished or is virtually never used in every Western democracy but the U.S. America has normalized the idea that millions of people are irredeemable, that a teenager who might get into trouble is thrown away for a lifetime in a carceral system that strips offenders of their humanity. The strike is about getting it back. Not to mention that, states like Alabama, they'll take their population. This is another way. It's another way of distorting the vote in their state, because they will take their black population from cities like Birmingham, incarcerate them in rural areas. The rural areas get to count the prisoners towards their population for census purposes, disenfranchises voters, gives people an incentive to lock them up, to take their voting rights away. That is also an issue I'm very passionate about. I think everybody should be allowed to vote, even people that are locked up. Period. You guys want to finish reading this article in Rolling Stone about the prison strike in Alabama? Boom. Speaking of Alabama, University of Alabama. Know nothing about sporty ball. Fucking sporty ball. Taking a closer look at who had the final say over whether Tua Tagovailoa, I think I said it better earlier, should have played on Thursday night. So let's get the recap here for those of you who aren't sporty ball fans. Ooh, I need to get the clip too. I didn't get the clip. The situation last week in Miami raised plenty of questions regarding organizational dynamics and decision making. The situation became complicated by the fact that owner Stephen Ross is suspended through week 6. Basically, the Dolphins are a ship without a captain. None of this even makes sense to me. It feels like they started without explaining the fucking story. Can we get a recap of what the fuck happened here? And I'm gonna get you the clip of Well, here, ESPN will probably do it. This, much better, much better. Here's an ESPN video that should tell us what the fuck happened.
Hit by Bills linebacker Bat Milano on Sunday. He passed the joint NFL and NFLPA concussion protocols. And those decisions spurred a joint investigation into the process that allowed Tua to return to play. What can you tell us about that investigation and where it currently stands?
Well, Stefania, it's still a very active review, and it's important to note that these are reviews that we conduct normally several times each season. Anytime that there's questions or concerns raised about the concussion protocol and how it was applied, then the league and the union, our medical officials, get together and we go back and review these situations. And that's really not unlike something that we do in clinical medicine. You know, I'm a surgeon as well, and in the hospital, whenever we have outcomes that are different than maybe what was expected or see something that people raise concerns about, we go through and review those cases. And you do that in the spirit of looking back and examining exactly what was done, how the decisions were made, and also looking for ways that can be improved upon. So we are in the midst of doing that together with the union. We've conducted interviews with a number of individuals. We always speak to the team doctors, the independent doctors, the player themselves. And as soon as we wrap that up, we've stated that we will come forward publicly and let everyone know exactly what we found and what our insight was from that situation.
Now, Tagovailoa was checked each day for concussion symptoms leading up to Thursday's game in Cincinnati, and he was cleared to play.
Tagovailoa? Is that it? Tagovailoa? I'm trying to find the first hit. So I've got the second one. So what happened was he got concussed a week ago. And who did it say they were playing?
Dr. Sills, when Tua Tagovailoa was hit by Bills linebacker
The Bills. Let's watch this video. Yes, this was 1 week ago. So he took a hit in Sunday's game a week ago against the Bills.
Are in trouble, 0-2. Tua Tagovailoa throwing off his back foot with the rush in his face there. Jalen Waddle makes the catch. Penalty flag comes in, and Tua Tagovailoa was roughed at the end of the release. The pass rusher came on top of him there, and Tagovailoa suffered some type of an injury on this.
Pushed him down. Boom. He hits the back of his head there.
In the game right now, Tagovailoa, oh boy, getting up. Oh my goodness, that's an awful, awful sight to see. They will take him to the sideline immediately.
So you saw how he kind of shook his head there, and then he fell to his knees. It's like, that's head injury. That's concussion. So that leads us to the controversy. This was a week ago on Sunday when that hit happened. One more time.
An injury on this play. We have Teddy Bridgewater in the game right now. Tagovailoa, oh boy, getting up. Oh my goodness, that's an awful, awful sight to see. They will take him to the sideline immediately. Oof. Okay, Tagovailoa.
So that happened a week ago Sunday. The Miami Dolphins were playing again on Thursday against the Cincinnati Bengals. And apparently they cleared Tua Tagovailoa to play. Now, this is a controversial decision because of what you just saw happen in Sunday's game. So that would have been, 4 days earlier. Former WWE wrestler and now a doctor of neuroscience, I do believe, Dr. Chris Nowinski. He heads up a concussion research institute. Christopher Nowinski, PhD, tweeted this out on Thursday afternoon. If Tua takes the field tonight, it's a massive step back for the hashtag concussion care in the NFL. If he has a second concussion that destroys his season or career, everyone involved will be sued and should lose their jobs, coaches included. We all saw it. Even they must know this isn't right. So now allow me to show you what happened on Thursday night.
Big adjustments at halftime.
To a rolling left with the grain, and down he goes.
Ooh.
His own 48-yard line. Josh Tupu.
And the first thing he does is make what would you call that with your hands like?
Was wobbly. The training staff comes out, and of course the last thing the Dolphins wanted to see. I mean, last week it looked for all the world. Everybody thought head injury, concussion, passed the protocol, came back second half.
So the controversy is that he shouldn't have been allowed to play in this game. Nerve extension convulsion. I know it has a name.
Again, wrenching that back, which was the issue last week.
Yep.
So they work on him. We'll step away for a moment.
So he was taken off the field on a stretcher. Apparently, there's even controversy about the way they treated him after he suffered this injury here.
The way his fingers were stretched.
Yes, I definitely cheer on Chris Nowinski in taking the NFL to task on this. Ooh. That is just fucking nasty.
He goes down.
And right as he goes down, you can see both his hands. You just get right away, you get concerned. They're bringing a stretcher out right now.
Yeah, for the people listening to the podcast, I don't even know what to call what he's doing with his hands. But it just looks like there is something fucked up.
Off of the week that he had last week. I mean, he's just being a gamer playing tonight, trying to be there for his.
Now I've kind of got the volume down. I'm trying to talk a lot, is because you guys know the NFL. The express consent of the NFL.
Talking to our sports medicine analyst, longtime trainer for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Just insane.
And Mike Ryan tells us when he sees that, and he's watching this as you are as well, it's a neurological response to head trauma.
A neurological response to head trauma.
Him right now. Head hits the turf.
Now he is not paralyzed. He can move his extremities. He says that he's doing well. Yeah, was it really worth it?
Just like that.
Again, worth mentioning.
They'd probably say yes. Like, supposedly he is an amazing fucking player. But he is, on his way to a legendary career if it isn't cut short. If he gets to play again.
Jalen Waddle, 17, who we saw earlier, he, of course, went to school with him in Alabama, has known him for a long time. Let's see how concerned he is.
Because I want to say, like, he was one of the top draft picks. But also, I don't know fucking shit about football.
Popular around the country, such a great, college career, obviously.
Yeah, supposedly he's a really good guy too. Man, soccer is violent.
And they'll take him back initially to the locker room. There was the coach, Mike McDaniel, with the send-off, and we'll get, as soon as we can, obviously, the official word as we hear it.
The tackle on Thursday was probably legal. You're probably right on that, RB. It was indeed like dude was penalized for the shove on the injury on Sunday, but that's. The neurologist, the independent neurologist that cleared Tua Tagovailoa was indeed fired. Yeah, the Finns fired the neurotrauma person who assessed him. But as Nowinski said, like, everybody should be fired. Everybody should be fired. If he has a second concussion that destroys his season or career, everyone involved will be sued and should lose their jobs, coaches included. We all saw it. Even they must know this isn't right. And Nowinski even followed up. He took no pleasure in being right about this. Fucking Chris Nowinski is an awesome guy. Go follow him on Twitter. Yeah, convenient they had a non-affiliated doctor to scapegoat. Exactly, Mox. Exactly. And welcome. Good evening, my friend. You want to keep doing sports? let's do sports since we're on the sporting section of the show. I do have some sad news to bring to you. Man was a legend, so we need to talk about him, not just in wrestling but in politics. If you don't know who Antonio Inoki is, even if you're not a wrestling fan, this is a amazing story, very interesting that you're going to want to hear. Antonio Inoki, and like not just wrestling, famed combat sports trailblazer, because in Japan there's a little more of a blurred line between MMA and wrestling, and Antonio Inoki did both, the precursor to what we now know as MMA. Antonio Inoki, a combat sports trailblazer, influential politician, and larger-than-life figure in his native Japan, died Friday at the age of 79. Mox, that is pretty good for a pro wrestler, especially one who was as active as he was. I don't know when he actually retired or if he ever did retire. Here's a pretty recent picture of him. He had fallen into ill health recently. The cause of Inoki's death was not released, but he had fallen ill in recent years and was relegated to a wheelchair. Inoki retired from politics in 2019, though he touched many parts of Japanese culture in his lifetime and became one of the most famous people in the country. Inoki was most known for his work in combat sports as a pro wrestler, promoter, and fighter, most notably his bout with Muhammad Ali. Inoki was the most important professional wrestler in the history of Japan. Now, I do kind of take issue with that because I listened to Jim Cornette's podcast. Jim Cornette is the wrestling historian that I would take as the expert in this. And Jim Cornette would tell you that the most important professional wrestler in the history of Japan was Ricky Dozen. But Ricky Dozen was Antonio Inoki's trainer and mentor. That is going to be an important fact when we watch the end of Flair and Inoki here in just a second. Inoki was one of the most important professional wrestlers in the history of Japan, selling out countless arenas and stadiums from the 1970s and on. He was also the first Japanese wrestler to win the WWF Championship, though his reign is not currently recognized by the WWE, and was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2010. On June 26, 1976, Inoki fought Ali, perhaps the highest profile mixed rules bout ever. Inoki had a background in amateur wrestling and judo and trained under catch wrestler Karl Gotch, developing a mythology of fighting he called strong style, which is still practiced in Japan today. Ali, of course, was one of the top boxers in the world at the time and incredibly well known globally. Ali versus Inoki was a direct ancestor to what we know now as mixed martial arts, which has become a global sport led by the UFC, founded in 1993. The bout was one of the most watched fights of its generation. In addition to the sold-out crowd of more than 14,000 at the Nippon Budokan in Tokyo, it aired on closed circuit across the world. Shea Stadium in New York aired the bout on its big screen and drew a crowd of 32,000 with an undercard of pro wrestling and mixed rules matches. Ali versus Inoki ended in a draw, but Inoki spent most of the 15-round contest on his back, kicking at Ali's legs and landing those kicks more than 100 times. Ali took far more damage in the bout than Inoki did and sustained injuries to his legs. Boxing was by far the most popular combat sport at the time, especially in the United States, but Ali versus Inoki put the idea into many heads that maybe boxing was not the best style to win a more fluid, all-encompassing fight, a debate that raged decades before Ali and versus Inoki and years after until the dawn of the UFC. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu pioneer Carlson Gracie, I've never heard him called Carlson. Carl Gracie once said Inoki was one of the best fighters he had seen. During the lead-up to his historic boxing match with Floyd Mayweather, UFC superstar Conor McGregor cited Ali versus Inoki several times as an influence on him with regards to the crossover bout with Mayweather. In a current combat sports landscape where it has become common for boxers to fight MMA fighters and pro wrestlers to fight YouTubers and so on and so forth, Ali versus Inoki was far ahead of its time. So there you can see, I don't know if he's trying to go for one of his kicks on the back of the leg, or if maybe he did this sweep move. I don't know if you'll see it in the part of the Ric Flair match we're getting ready to watch. But he had this move where he would like do a leg takedown, a scissor takedown. Inoki used his popularity gained from fighting Ali to become the most popular pro wrestler in the history of Japan. Also debatable, Rikidozan. He founded New Japan Pro Wrestling in 1972 and was the promotion's biggest star for more than a decade, having huge matches with the likes of Hulk Hogan, Dory Funk Jr., Big Van Vader, and Bruiser Brody. But it was also Inoki's vision to blend what became known as MMA and pro wrestling together. One of his students, Nobuhiko Takada, helped start the MMA promotion Pride Fighting Championships in 1997, which became very popular and was later purchased by the UFC. Inoki was at many Pride shows as a part of its introduction ceremonies and did a parachuted skydive from an airplane into Tokyo National Stadium in front of 90,000 people at Pride Shockwave 2002. The motherfucker would have been 60-something at that time. Or maybe like 59. I have learned so much from Mr. Inoki, Risen promoter and Pride founder Nobuyoku Sakabiara wrote in an Instagram post. The token spirit has been inherited to Risen from Pride. I really wish he could step into the Risen ring. I am devastated. May his soul rest in peace. He was also elected politician in Japanese government from 2013 to 2019. That was not his first foray into politics, though. Oh, shit. Aside from sports, Inoki was a major mover and shaker in the political world. He started his own political party, the Sports and Peace Party, and was elected into the Japanese House of Councilors in 1989. Inoki flew to Iraq in 1996 on a one-man diplomatic mission and negotiated with Saddam Hussein the release of 36 Japanese hostages. He was also an elected politician in Japanese government from 2013 to 2019 when he controversially advocated for continued diplomacy with North Korea. Inoki had long had relations with North Korea. His original pro wrestling trainer, Rikidozan, was of North Korean descent. Inoki helped put together a 2-day pro wrestling festival in the country in 1995, which drew 150,000 on the first day and 190,000 on the second day. Inoki defeated Ric Flair in the main event, the only time the two legends wrestled each other. And I'm sorry for the spoiler warning. I shouldn't have done that since fucking that's what we're getting ready to watch. But if you know anything about wrestling, you probably knew Ric Flair was taking the L to Antonio Inoki. Especially when I tell you the backstory. First of all, the thing that you have to know about this is that the North Koreans didn't know what the fuck wrestling was. Not only that, a lot of these people are probably seeing an American for the first times in their lives. And one of the very first Americans they ever lay eyes on is Ric fucking Flair. Man who is like 6'3", bleach blonde, came out wearing a purple sequined rhinestoned robe, yelling, "Woo!" So this is about probably 10, 11 minutes into the match. Antonio Inoki was revered by the fans in North Korea because, as we mentioned, Rikidozan was actually a North Korean. Rikidozan, the mentor of Antonio Inoki, was murdered by the Yakuza when it was found out that he was a North Korean and not actually Japanese. He had been hiding that he was a North Korean and became insanely popular as a professional wrestler. And the Yakuza murdered him. So this story ends up being mythology in North Korea, that Rikidozan actually confessed to being like North Korean and his pride for his country on his deathbed, which probably didn't actually happen. So these people who had no clue what wrestling was and didn't react to any other match that was on this card for 2 days were totally behind Antonio Inoki because he was trained by Ricky Dozan, who was a mythical legend in North Korean propaganda. So here is the finish of Antonio Inoki versus Ric Flair in North Korea from 1995.
The Nature Boy Ric Flair now.
Ric Flair going up to the top rope. If you're a wrestling fan, you know what this is.
Oh no, Flair knows he's in trouble here. Flair in a lot of trouble. Inoki tosses Flair.
This is a classic Ric Flair spot, getting thrown from the top rope.
A man who has survived matches with big
Look at that drop kick.
Fortunately for Ric Flair, Inoki came up.
Took Flair's head off.
And the Nature Boy Ric Flair able to roll the shoulder.
Remember, Antonio Inoki is 53, and he just missed Flair's head by jumping too high for a drop kick.
Pinning attempt by Inoki. Fatigue now a factor, and the dirtiest player in the game with a right hand to the solar plexus. And now
Yeah, usually Flair would have hit the dick.
Inoki pinned in the corner. Delivers a right hand, but eats a right hand.
But I guess dirty tactics don't really, when your crowd doesn't even know the rules of professional wrestling, it's not going to piss them off to break the rules and hit somebody in the dick.
Ric Flair with an uppercut to the midsection. Might have caught the solar plexus because Inoki's in trouble here. Big slam by Flair, plants him in the center.
Uh-oh, coming with that knee drop. Oh, fuck yeah. Oh, no, gonna drop the elbow.
Right onto the neck of
Even Mike Tenay thought he was going to drop the knee.
Inoki still fresh, able to roll the shoulder. Inoki trying to
For those of you who don't know, Ric Flair has an amazing knee drop, and he rolls through it. It's beautiful.
He is a defensive wrestler, and he's a defensive wrestler on the receiving end of some punishment from the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Now Flair showing some fatigue. Flair with a back suplex, but he's
Both of them wore out.
pinfall attempt, and both men are on their backs.
I'm still probably going to get WWE copyright and fucking me because of this, even with how little I'm playing of it.
But I think Mr. Inoki is at the resilience.
I don't think he had started doing the turnbuckle flip just yet, or he was starting to do it. Remember, this is right after he came out of retirement. He didn't want to retire. It was all an angle.
Not making excuses for anybody, but anybody that's
It was like a title versus retirement match with Hulk Hogan.
that patented kick by Inoki now up to the top.
Boom with that knee.
Inoki turn it on.
Amazing speed and resilience by Antonio Inoki.
Probably check fucking Flair for a concussion after that. Damn.
Jump back leg round kick right to the side of the head, and I do believe Ric Flair was out, and that was it.
So there you go, Antonio Inoki.
He was going to be victorious. Although I think Antonio Inoki took a chance.
In Pyongyang, North Korea.
As Ric Flair, and knowing that, as you said, the dirtiest man in wrestling. I want to know what's going to happen here. Is he going to show
This is the largest crowd ever to watch a wrestling match.
And again, not making any excuses for Ric Flair, because this is not a guy that
However, no one was there willingly.
the reality of the situation, Mike, you're looking at a guy who, number one, had come off a layoff from October to the end of April.
Even the wrestlers, they agreed to it. Oh, even Flair's hot. Flair's hot. He wants more.
No, it's not excuses, it's a fact. The Nature Boy
Get him, Flair. Ah, kick him in the balls. Come on. We want a low blow. Dirtiest player in the game. Gonna get in his face. Classic Flair.
sure Rick knew at that given moment exactly how he was going to react. Of course, being surrounded by about 685 pounds of Japanese wrestlers would have a tendency to
Show of respect.
bad thoughts too. Almost a stare down between the two right before the handshake.
You know, Mox, I didn't even think about that. It is amazing he didn't bleed all over the place.
After this match, he wanted a rematch and he wanted it in the United States. We'll see if it happens.
that can be arranged, I'm sure.
But once again, like what you like, if you've never seen a wrestling match before, having one with blood would probably fuck you up.
For my broadcast partner, a good friend and a man who, as I have said in the past, has his finger on the pulse of the international wrestling scene, Mr. Mike today. Mr. Kazuo Ishikawa, thank you for joining us, and it was certainly a pleasure to be in Tokyo and in Pyongyang, North Korea with you.
Oh, so I guess Eric Bischoff did the voiceover for this when he was in Tokyo or something. So, and hey, I'll link you if you want to watch the full match. I feel sorry for this dude's YouTube. I'm amazed the WWE hasn't come after him yet. Possibly with Inoki dying like they might if he starts getting a lot of views. But you know, since we're talking about North Korea, Vice President Kamala Harris made a trip to the DMZ. Vice President Harris mistakenly touts U.S. alliance with the Republic of North Korea.
Undermining key elements of the international rules-based order. China has challenged the freedom of the seas. China has flexed its military and economic might to coerce and intimidate its neighbors. And we have witnessed disturbing behavior in the East China Sea and in the South China Sea. And most recently, provocations across the Taiwan Strait. We will continue to support Taiwan's self-defense.
The saber rattling is cringe.
With our long-standing policy.
Oh, that didn't even give us the gaff. Where's the gaff at? I'm pretty sure there's fucking video of it. Come on. Hold on. Not fucking give me the actual video. Here is the video from the demilitarized zone. Wasn't even from the speech we were watching just now.
So the United shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. And it is an alliance that is strong and enduring. And today, there were several demonstrations of just that point. So the United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea.
Well, why didn't somebody tell her?
It is an alliance that is
Did she
strong
correct herself?
and today, there were several demonstrations of just that point.
It is clearly meant to refer to the Republic of Korea, South Korea's official name. And she is hardly the only politician to commit such a slip. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it at all. But you know, the right wing is going to run with it and they're going to try to make fun of her for it. So let's get our recipe for Kamala Korean cheesesteaks.
Of our new international alliance with North Korea, thanks to
our wonderful vice president.
We are going to make our Min Kamala Korean cheesesteak sandwiches.
That's right. It's your ribeye.
So this is the deplorable choir. Honey, ginger, garlic, soy sauce, sesame, or is that their Korean barbecue sauce they're putting together? Oh my god, that country music's gonna kill me.
Pacific Ocean.
Shit, we're gonna dump this like a North Korean missile in the Pacific Ocean?
We're going to dump this like a North Korean missile in the Pacific Ocean.
Are they gonna do stuffed peppers with it? That's a good idea. Nope. They're just slicing the peppers. Oh no, I would have stuffed the peppers with the meat.
Yeah, baby, I'm horrible at this.
On the cast iron of communism.
It smells like a diplomatic nightmare.
Now we're going to add some butter to sauteed vegetables.
I do highly recommend you got some nice beef, cook that shit in a cast iron. Get that Mylar effect going.
Somebody from a North Korean detention camp. All right, so we're going to take our rolls. I can't pronounce this, but you can recognize it, all right? What we're going to do.
Hoagie roll? I don't even know. Or a bruschetta. I would have rather stuffed the peppers with it.
You don't want your sandwich to taste like Willie Brown. Am I right, Mama? Am I right?
Oh, I was like, what does that joke even mean? He's implying that Harris sucked her dick, or sucked Willie Brown's dick in order to get her job. That's the joke.
All right, Chad would have preferred us to use Cheese Whiz.
Yeah, true Philly fashion, but instead, what are we using?
We're using white American cheese.
Like Kamala's husband.
Ooh. I thought we were like getting some provolone or something nice. White American.
Pretty person.
Aww.
Aww.
You're so handsome.
Oh, they use baguettes? I didn't even think about that.
Okay, the moment of truth. See if Kamala has a point when she put North Korea and America together. Yeah, I'm gonna feed you.
Ooh.
Is it a winner?
Tastes better than the DMZ.
Is the International Alliance gonna work?
It tastes better than the DMZ.
That's so freaking amazing.
How? It tastes better than the DMZ. How does that joke make any sense? Any sense at all? It tastes better than the DMZ. My God, these people. Oh, now see, that looks good. That fucking looks good. So this is apparently what they were trying to rip off the bonami. In Vietnamese cuisine, banh mi is a short baguette with thin, crisp crust and soft, airy texture. It is often split lengthwise and filled with savory ingredients like a submarine sandwich and served as a meal. See, that looks way better than whatever the hell they made. Banh mi. Oh God, RB. You should be canceled for that.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
But yeah, my God, that looks a million times better than whatever the hell they cooked. Just say that looked like some white people food they cooked. All right, let's hop back on this. The Crystal Flute. Lizzo gives President James Madison's Crystal Flute a public debut. So there has been confusion this last week. What do President James Madison and Grammy Award-winning chart-topping pop sensation Lizzo have in common? A love of flutes, apparently. At a show at Washington, D.C.'s Capital One Arena on Tuesday, September 27th, the 34-year-old rapper and singer treated the crowd to a particularly capital performance, playing an enchanting, albeit brief solo on a 200-year-old crystal flute once owned by the fourth president. By all records, Lizzo, born Melissa Vivian Jefferson, is the first person to ever play the artifact. I'm sorry, Hildebeest, I lost track of them. I lost track of the ads earlier. I try to play them all at once. I try to do a 3-minute break in the hour, and I take a pee break. I go refill my drink and everything, but I just missed them when I flipped over to do them. I got my timing off, so I'm sorry. I play them all at once, so you never have to see them again. That's the point. But she might not even know that I'm saying this to her because she's watching ads. So I am incredibly sorry for that, Hildebeest. What do President James Madison and Grammy-winning chart-topping pop sensation Lizzo? Oh, I was explaining that I always try to play all the ads at once, and then you never get ads the rest of the hour. So I do my little ad break that I've got, like my pre-made ads, and I'll hit the Twitch ads. And you're supposed to be able to do it on YouTube too, but it doesn't let me. Maybe I don't have them set up right. But that way, like 1 3-minute break, and then they're done. No more ads. Nobody has to watch ads. Nobody misses any content. I just lost track of them tonight. I'm sorry. 'Cause I don't want anybody to miss anything. And then it gives me a chance to take a pee-pee break and blah, blah, blah. But I do like that, like, Twitch has bumped up the amount of money that we get from ads if you play 3 minutes in an hour. I just thought that was a good way to try to scam Twitch. Play my commercial break, hit the commercial break on Twitch. Hell yeah, Lenny, it was a pleasure having you here. Now we are almost done. We're doing Lizzo's Crystal Flute, and then I'm gonna give you like a puppy video if you wanna trek the rest of the way through. We're coming in for a landing. I usually go about like 2 to 3 hours every night. But I get a little long-winded sometimes. What do President James Madison and Grammy-winning chart-topping pop sensation Lizzo have in common? A love of flutes, apparently. At a show in Washington, D.C.'s Capital One Arena on Tuesday, the 34-year-old rapper treated the crowd to a particularly capital performance, playing an enchanting, albeit brief solo on a 200-year-old crystal flute once owned by the fourth president. By all records, Lizzo is the first person to ever play the artifact. Do you guys need to see it? Has everybody seen the performance? If you haven't, it's fantastic, and I absolutely will show it to you again. But if everybody's seen it, we won't watch it again. The thing that I want to bring up is that I was confused all fucking week about this. Lizzo said she was the first person to play the flute. The next day, I saw evidence she was not the first person to play the flute. Then the Library of Congress said she's the first person to play the flute. So I would tend to believe the Library of Congress. You would think they would know if she was the first person to play the flute. NPR changed their story to Lizzo performs on rarely played James Madison glass flute at DC concert. So, the haunting sound of Lizzo trying out a more than 200-year-old glass flute at the Library of Congress earlier this week. As NPR's Chloe Veltman reports, the pop music star delighted fans when she played the historic instrument, which belonged to founding father James Madison. When Library of Congress, Carla Hayden found out Lizzo was coming to D.C., she tagged the star and classically trained flautist in a tweet, inviting her to come check out the library's formidable collection of historic flutes. Lizzo had a go on President James Madison's flute, and then Hayden offered her the opportunity to play the instrument at her concert. Security was tight. Library spokesman Roswell Encina said the flute even had its own secret. We contacted Capitol Police to make sure the flute was transported to the arena safely. 2 curators from the music division were with it. It nearly perished when the British set fire to the White House in 1814. One of the items that Dolly Madison rescued from the White House, along with, of course, George Washington's portrait. So, according to the Library of Congress, it's unlikely anyone else, not even James Madison, has ever played the flute. So, Lizzo was told wrong by the Library of Congress. It's unlikely anyone else, not even James Madison, has ever played the flute. NPR issued a correction on this. Although a spokesperson for the Library of Congress said they thought it was unlikely anyone else had played the James Madison flute before Lizzo, NPR's Melissa Block previously interviewed an instructor of Baroque flute who played it on our air in 2001. That was a tribute to James Madison. And I'm actually going to give a right-wing propaganda outlet props for once. The Washington Examiner wrote this: "No need to get all twerked up about Lizzo playing Madison's flute," while Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh were going fucking nuts over it. Washington Examiner wrote a fantastic piece about how it's totally cool for Lizzo to play the flute, and we're into it. So I give the Washington Examiner props, and this is where I found out that she wasn't the first person to play the flute. This is the Washington Post, March 26, 2001. It was Madison. It is James Madison's 250th birthday, celebrated on March 16th. So it was in the Library of Congress's James Madison Memorial Building, and it's the only official memorial to the fourth president. The evening ended with a toast to Madison and with music. Rob Turner, a flute instructor at the University of Virginia, played a lead crystal flute made in Paris in 1813 by Claude Lornet. Madison received the flute inscribed in French to him, "To His Eminence, President of the United States." The flute is displayed in the floor collection in the Library of Congress's Music Division. Turner recorded Mr. Madison's crystal flute on a compact disc, and I checked it out. When you go and look up the flute in the Library of Congress, it lists this disc with it. So totally checks out. So I just like being factual, as you guys know. So she's not the first person to play the flute. She is one of the only people to ever play the flute. But probably what makes it more amazing than anything that she was able to play the flute is this piece I found from a music instructor. I had no way of verifying this, but if this is true, it sounds true. If this is true, it just makes Lizzo all that more badass. A little bit more about Lizzo and the crystal flute. Normally she plays the modern Baum concert flute, cylindrical bore pitched in C, with the keynote played with 7 fingers down and extensive keywork for the accidentals. The Laurent crystal flute is a pre-Baum simple system instrument, pitched in D, tapered bore, keynote played with 6 fingers down, only a few keys. Their playing characteristics are therefore markedly different, to the point where they are not at all interchangeable. Imagine, for instance, handing a 16th century viola to a modern guitar player. I play simple system and am totally useless with a modern Baum flute. For the record, in the footage from the Library of Congress, Lizzo clearly demonstrates that she knows her way around a simple system flute and has almost undoubtedly studied historical performance. The people who are complaining are ignorant dunderheads. Or as I always say, right-wingers and morons. All right, because it breaks your name up, I can't know if I'm getting it right. Are you per crusader? Per crusader? Paracrusader? Well, I would say Lizzo is probably in better shape than you. If you've ever seen a Lizzo concert, which I'm assuming you haven't if you're saying that, she fucking does a hell of a lot of cardio. Since I've known runners and cyclists that have fallen dead from a heart attack, I'm just going to assume Lizzo's going to be just fine. And you're an idiot.
Do you think we're stupid? You think we're fools?
All of you. Right-wingers are absolute morons. Why the fuck do you care? She's obese? Once again, she is almost certainly in better shape than you. I've watched her dance on stage. I couldn't fucking do what she does. So shut the fuck up, dumbass. You don't come in here and respect a very talented musician. What the fuck is wrong with you? Oh, she's fat. You're an insecure little piece of shit. That's why you're saying that. I don't give a fuck what your BMI is. Dumb shit. Your brain's itty fucking bitty. So I guess that matches your body mass index then, doesn't it, moron? Certainly in better shape than you. If you guys are anywhere near the Kansas City area, I want to hook you guys up. There's an animal sanctuary that does this awesome thing. If you're in and around Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas, you need a night away to snuggle with one of our amazing pups. Did you know that we pay for you to have a hotel slumber party, and we also provide dinner? Mooney is our next slumber party. This 5-year-old boy really needs a night of snuggles. He deserves a night out. Could that person be you? Once again, this is an animal sanctuary, and they also have all the buttons to donate so that you can make donations so that this can continue to happen, because this is awesome. They pay for you to shack up with a puppy for the night. They want you to love on the puppy, and I believe they even dress it up in cute pajamas like this. So the Midwest Animal Sanctuary will pay for dinner and a hotel for you and a sweet puppy like Moody here. So if you were in and around the Kansas City, Missouri area, this is the Midwest Animal Sanctuary. I hit the link in the chat. This is your animal story for the day. You didn't get an animal video, but I feel like this one is totally heartwarming. And somebody might be around Kansas City and just found out how to get a free night in a hotel with a puppy in pajamas. You can't beat that. Tomorrow night on the show, we will be sure to kick authority in the balls yet again.
He's kicking authority in the balls.
Man, I love that. I fucking love that. I'm going to wear that one out. If you are watching on Twitch, it is Plex time. We're going to head over to Echoplex Media for the Plex podcast. Oh my God, he's got Marjorie Taylor Greene for you. So don't blame me, guys. Don't blame me. But remember what I say. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It is all right to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I am Justin Freakin, and we will see you tomorrow night on the Troll Patrol live.